It's Off Exit 10, presented by Capital District Sport and Fitness.
That was a wild game, though. That was a 0-0 going into the end, or a 1-1?
It was 0-0 through 10 and a half innings.
I was going to say it was the 10th or 11th inning.
The 11th inning, yeah. First pitch with the reliever, Tommy White.
Just
crazy. Just mayhem. Just a fan for that game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just sat back. What are you going to do other than just watch and enjoy it from the dugout?
At that point, too, like your guys are doing everything they're supposed to for the most part, all pitching and defensive wise. Obviously, we didn't get any hits or timely hits, but yeah. It's just a great game to watch. Like I watched probably more College World Series this year than I have. I couldn't even tell you the last time, probably since I was like maybe in like high school.
Yeah.
And it was exciting to watch, man. It was a different atmosphere.
College baseball is really good right now.
Yeah.
It's really good. I think they're willing to go to places that maybe many professional teams are not willing to go to yet.
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean by that?
I think it's a little more trial and error. I think it's a little more free thinking. I think they're less worried to make mistakes on guys because there's not as big of a financial investment for each dude. So they just they try things, and the other thing is that in college you have to win every game. You got to go win every game.
Yeah.
In pro ball, it's 162 games. Like
162.
you're going to lose games.
I talk about it every day in here. I'm like, I'm not worried about the Yankees. It's 100. I mean, I am worried, but it's 162 games. I got time.
Yeah. Yeah, well, listen, everybody. We have Mike McFerran on tonight. I appreciate you coming on. He's, I know let's rip another cheers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, sir. Cheers.
Thanks for having me, boys. Appreciate it, man.
Appreciate you. Yeah, man. So Mike is the director of player development and head of the pitching lab coordinator for Wake Forest baseball. Wake. This was your first year to the World Series since when?
1955 was the last time.
Jesus.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible. And when did the pitching lab first open up at Wake? Because you see those facilities online, and they're incredible.
See, what's funny is I've heard 2018 and I've heard 2019. I actually don't know which one it is. The latest thing I read was 2019, so we'll run with that.
And
then, a few years now.
When did you first get there?
It's my second full year that I just completed. So 2 full seasons now.
It's an impressive second season.
Yeah, not too shabby.
No.
I guess you didn't have a sophomore slump, we'll say. That did not happen.
Guess not. That's a good point. I didn't think about it that way.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, it was.
You avoided that.
Unintentionally, yes.
So you get in there, and do they have systems running that they're saying, okay, Mike, let's step in and let's implement these? Or since it's so new, are you kind of part of the ground floor developing what these systems are going to be?
Yeah, I think it's both. It walked into amazing resources, obviously. It's shiny. Like, it's tough to get past the nuance. You walk in, and you're like, man, this place is sweet.
Yeah.
Immediately. But then you get past that, and the people are awesome. People are some of the best in the world at what they do. So I'm just adding, my skill set and learning from them to what we're trying to do. But it was a lot of like, we have an ocean's worth of information that we're not quite sure what to do with. There was a lot of that, and it was figuring out, how do I bring my philosophy and measure it, start to measure it, and in coordination with, of course, our pitching coach and the rest of our staff. So quite the adventure figuring that out.
Yeah, we'll get into this more, but I feel like that's where sports are now. There's so much analytics and there's so much data, which you can do a lot with, but you also can get overwhelmed with or caught up with, especially at the younger levels. I feel like guys get caught up with these metrics and data, and they kind of miss the bigger rocks of.
And it's just like, even think of it as simple as like going to school. When you're in school, a grade school, right? If you're given too much information at once, you don't know what to do with it.
Right.
And then you're just literally in place or going backwards. So it's similar to that in a sense, I feel like, but you're the expert, man. What do you think?
I think it's worded perfectly.
Yeah.
Like it's a language. Data is a language that they should be learning to use. Like, I think the future of coaching. It's how well you can interpret the information and then give it to somebody and apply it to somebody, put it on the field. So that starts young. I think it's performance too. Like you see a lot of especially our guys, but you see so many of the guys in the big leagues who are successful. They know information. Like they're using it to understand their game. And it's a huge competitive advantage if you can learn that language. So
okay, if you have a 13 or a 14-year-old, what are the pieces of data you want them to start to get familiar with and learn about and manipulate?
Great question. Basics for sure. How the ball moves through the air is probably the most important thing you can learn as a pitcher. How does my shit play?
That helps.
So horizontal and vertical break to start, and then the angles that you pitch at.
Explain those terms just to people if they're not like big baseball people listening. Horizontal break and a vertical break.
That's going to happen a lot, so keep doing that.
Yeah, I'll catch you.
Please do. I appreciate it.
He'll be better at that than I am.
So horizontal break is how much the ball moves laterally, right? So you throw it in a specific direction, right? But it doesn't start moving because of its spin until somewhere along the course if it's traveling to the plate. So from ground zero to where it ends up laterally is horizontal break, based on how the ball spin was causing it to move. And vertical break, which is actually induced vertical break, which is usually shortened up, is how much the ball defies gravity on the way to the plate, right? So if you threw a baseball and it wasn't spinning, gravity would just take it, right? It would have no effect on it. So the more a baseball's back spinning, the more it creates a cushion of air underneath the baseball to ride towards the plate, and how well it rides that air cushion is in the difference between that and where it would usually end up if gravity were the main factor in it. That's the measure of induced vertical break. So.
Okay, so we have a player's horizontal break and vertical break on different pitches. What else you want to teach a younger kid about?
I don't know if there's anything specific, but I would teach the philosophy, and here's what I mean by this. So you ever watch a movie and you get like 15 minutes in the movie and you're like, there's no way I'm going to understand any of this. I can't hear what they're saying, and I'm missing so many important pieces, and I don't know where we are in the plot. Right?
Yeah, 100%.
All the time, right? And you switch on the subtitles. I do it all the time. And then you start getting and understanding the movie, right? And then you go to watch the movie a second time, and it's like you don't even need the subtitles because you understand what's happening. That's pitch data for me.
Okay.
It's giving you context to help you understand what's happening, because it's just measuring what's happening, right? And so you can take that data and go, okay, well, so this is how my body is moving, or the ball is moving through the air and being measured. So if I can understand how that's happening and apply that to what I'm seeing, I have better context for what's truly going on.
Right. So you're quantifying that. What about, because us in the strength and conditioning field, it's a lot about, okay, let's just move back to how your body moves. Like, do you have the appropriate mobility and stability? And then how can we train that? Are you quantifying those variables when you're working with guys?
Yes, biomechanically for sure. Absolutely. So how they move produces how they throw the ball, right? How the ball flies through the air. So yeah, we work backwards. I think that's one of the interesting things that we do is we don't work from movement forwards. We work from ball flight backwards. Because this is my favorite way to put this, is a hitter's not facing a pitcher, he's facing his ball flight. He's facing a pitch. He's not facing a pitcher. Right. And how the pitcher throws the ball produces that ball flight, but it's it matters very much how the ball crosses the plate and what it does on its way there. We work backwards from that.
Yeah, that's cool here, because in here it's so much just like we're just movement focused and thinking about that. But then on the pitching side, you're working back from ball flight into, okay, where's their body at, or where's their body need to be?
Yep.
To get these numbers.
How do we produce it?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. How'd you first get into all this?
I think I stumbled my way into it. It's all good things do, right? I heard a great quote once. It's I don't know who it's from. It's you start on the path and the path appears.
Yeah.
You just start walking. I just like I love to do what I love to do.
Yeah, it's like I went to college for exercise science because I liked to lift weights in high school. Like, I had no fucking idea what I was gonna do for work.
You just love to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, sure, like I'll do this.
Why not?
I like to work out.
Yeah, and then your career showed itself to you.
Yeah. You're just kind of following whatever. Yeah, whatever you feel like your path you think you should take. And, yeah.
I was the kid who, like, I could play chess in high school. Like, I was a good pitcher, but I wasn't a good thrower. Like, I wasn't developed by any means. You know what I mean? Like, physically, I needed so much work. But I knew that I could become really good if I were to figure a lot of that stuff out. And everywhere I looked, I got like no answers or wrong answers for the most part. And that really drove me as a kid to start figuring out, like, I was like, all right, I'll do it myself. I'll just do my best to start figuring it out. And of course that didn't go very well. But that's where the passion became like, all right, well, I remember being that kid who felt he was capable of being great if he had the right answers and the right help, and I didn't find it. So I was like, I don't want another kid to go through that who's capable of doing that. And so that's kind of how that all started.
Yeah, I feel like you see that in the strength and conditioning field too. Like, we're a lot of subpar athletes who worked really hard to get to where you're at, but none of us ever had like the best skill set. And yeah, you're just always trying to find, how can I get myself to where these other guys are at?
Yeah.
How can I be better in the weight room? How can I train better or recover better to like get to this point?
It's the perfect combination, because you gain knowledge because of that, out of a desire to become better, but then you fuel yourself with the impact you make on people, you know, and you see the absence of the kid that you were in someone that you help. And I think that's where the best coaches come from.
Yeah, okay, so you're trying to become the best player yourself. You played, where'd you play in college?
So I hopped everywhere. I didn't handle it well, you know, to be honest with you. I was a much younger version of myself. But so I started at SUNY Oneonta, and I went because I had built a late relationship with the coach that was originally there, who left. And then so they switched the coaching staff over, and I didn't feel like it was a good fit. So I moved to SUNY Brockport and found kind of more of the same. And so I didn't want to throw away one more year. So I figured, hey, let's see what else is out there. And found myself at Lynn University in Boca Raton, Florida, Division II school. So
how would you have handled it differently? You said you weren't.
I wouldn't. It's not how I look back at things. I don't think I would have handled it any differently, you know. But I didn't handle it well. So it was more just, you know, I followed a desire for better information. And so I wouldn't have changed that, because it led me to find out so much of what began my career. So I wouldn't have changed anything.
Yeah, that makes sense. When did you start working with kids and with pitchers as a pitching coach?
So my first coaching job was Hayner's Barnstormers, 18U. Studs, absolute studs. Just an awesome team. And you know, I remember actually that feeling, whereas I remember realizing that I could communicate the ideas I was trying to teach myself to other people, and I went, oh yeah, this is it. This is definitely it. So
that light bulb went off in your head.
It sure did. It showed itself immediately. Yeah.
Yeah, I had that same thing happen with like weight training. All of a sudden I was like helping people, and I'm like, wait a minute. Hold on. There's definitely a career in this.
Yeah, it's powerful.
And then I was like, I could do this and make money and enjoy it. I'm going to do that.
Yep. Yep. If anyone's looking for like their career path, follow what he just said.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the answer. Yeah. Do I love this, and can I not feel like I'm working while I'm working?
That's a big thing.
That goes back to what did I say on the one podcast at the end, and you were like, oh, fucking mic drop.
Yeah, I think we clipped it.
And I was like, my dad used to always tell me, like, do what you love, because you won't feel like you work a day in your life. And I've amended that, and I said, do what you love, because you'll work twice as hard, but it won't feel like it.
Never does.
Like, I definitely work way harder doing this than I would if I was like in retail, you know. But I work way more, but I don't feel like it.
Yeah.
So, you know, definitely good advice on that side of things too, when it comes to like figuring out what you really want to do.
Yeah, I think people get caught up, or you know, kids get caught up in, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do. This is what my parents want me to do. Go to college for this, study finance, study this. And they're like, I don't fucking like accounting. Like, I'm miserable right now.
No one likes accounting.
Man, it's like, good luck enjoying life if, like, those are going to be your... Because, listen, you want to be successful, like, you're putting in long weeks. You're putting in 68-hour weeks. So it's like, good luck trying to be happy if you're not happy with what you're doing.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah. So, okay, so from Hayner's, because what year was that?
Ooh, that was 2016?
It's like, in the grand scheme of things, you kind of climb pretty quick. So go from working with like an upstate New York travel ball team, to being in the College World Series, working with helping develop the best pitching staff in the country. So how do you go from there to there so quickly? I mean, it's not many years.
Now it feels like longer than 7 years. I mean, you do it like what we just talked about. You do it with just an unwavering passion for figuring out how to make guys better, I think. You know? And you do it through energy. You do it from finding the right people. I'm a huge believer in just you become who you feel you're meant to be, and things just start aligning for you. That's how I've done it.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about this year. At the beginning of the year, do you feel, or you have an idea like, hey, we're good. Like we're gonna make a run here.
Yeah, absolutely. More than a run, I think we knew we had something seriously special. It was real. It was palpable. There was, it was never a second of doubt for our whole group, ever. Never felt doubt once.
Yeah, because your pitching staff, okay, I know we texted about these numbers, but what, tell me if I'm off, like a 2.83 ERA, the best K to walk ratio. What are other stats that work? You had some crazy stats this year, just as a staff as a whole.
So I don't follow the stats a ton. I know that some of them were wild. Like we knew we were going to do something special, but some of those numbers are like, wow, that was like really, really crazy. Really crazy. I think the one that I'll speak to this because numbers are the ultimate result, but I think sometimes they show a philosophy in something that's working. The ERA one is one that stands out because it's such a big gap between us and the team that was next. I think it was like 0.8 of a run.
That's
in
ridiculous.
ERA between us and number 2, and I think that shows the philosophy. We found a hole. And we've been plugging it against hitters. So that says something.
What do you mean by you found a hole?
You want all the answers, do you?
Yeah. Listen, we're trying to make it to the top too,
I think we have polished our way of thinking as a whole, as a staff, and we have so many smart people working at the same thing in their own respect. Against hitters, for our pitchers, and of course defense and offense and everything else plugs into it. Of course, strike stealing. Our process for using information is really good, and there's so many different ways and so many people working on that I'm lucky enough to learn from every day. But all those things combined to
because how much? Okay, so it's you in there. What other staff are you working with on a day-to-day?
Oh boy, how much time we have?
We got a lot.
So our pitching coach is Corey Mascara, who he most recently from Maryland and came to Wake Forest from Maryland, and I think he's the best pitching coach in the country. He combines the art of coaching with the science and technology, and he allows people to do their job to help our team, which is great. We have Chris Lewis, who is our director of analytics, who is now going to work for the Blue Jays, and he runs a 20-man data analytics team that we have. Awesome. Like what kind of talk about resources? Like we have a 20-man data analytics team in college.
It's crazy.
It's wild.
Yeah.
Wild. So he plays an enormous role in everything that we do. Houses our data, and it makes it accessible for us, gets us to understand it in different ways. Who else on the pitching side of the seat? So on the lab side of things and the development side of things, so I got to give this guy so much props because he helps us so much, I think. But Jeff Strom is our athletic trainer, and he's one of those unsung heroes. And I think he's been at Wake for something like 25 years. When does that happen?
Yeah.
It shows shows a lot, And that guy, and his whole staff of people, I mean, he has a staff of people too, but, they keep our guys healthy, and they're really good at it, and he makes timely decisions. And so he's awesome. Our strength coach is Mark Seaver. And how can you train force development without training force development, right?
Yeah.
So he helps a ton, and our biomechanist is Kristen Nicholson, and she runs things on the health side of things with the hospital. Interesting little thing about our pitching lab is it's half owned by Wake Forest Baptist and half owned by the athletic department. So there's a lot of positive benefits that come from having a foot in the health world and a foot in the baseball world.
So that was about just the care the guys get and the funding to be able to do what you want to do.
Yeah, well, that's the funding is from our head coach is Tom Walter. He's an incredible businessman, an incredible manager. And Wake is it's a mecca for college baseball development, for players, and it's all we owe that to him for sure.
What's so cool is all that happening behind the scenes has to then get filtered down to just having a conversation with a player and teaching them. Like, they probably don't give a shit about all that stuff that's going on. They just want to throw it harder, have their pitches move better, not get hurt.
Get more guys out.
Get more guys out. That's it. They do. They care. They actually do. Like, part of working at Wake is you get really smart dudes.
Right.
They're really smart, man. They're little geniuses, and they're not little, but you know what I mean. Like, they take this info, and this is one of my core philosophies: is we don't give these guys enough credit for how capable they are of understanding this shit and using it, and they're really good at that. So we educate them on everything. We don't hold anything back ever.
I feel like that's just in general, whether it's a college kid or a youth kid, like, you don't realize how much they actually do know unless you ask them, like, oh, why did this happen? Yeah. And then they start filtering in their head, oh, maybe it was because of this. And then you start helping them decipher.
Do you feel like
it.
now with the internet, guys have better filters, have more questions, know more? Because there's just more information out there for them to read about, I should be doing this, whether it's mechanically or in the weight room or movement-wise or how they throw a pitch.
Well, I think that comes with misinformation too, though.
Yeah, it does too. You're correct.
That's a problem. Because there's a lot.
Yeah, because how much? Okay, I mean, your guys are like top level, but yeah, I mean, we'll get kids in the gym and be like, "Hey, I saw this on Instagram," and you're like, "Well, yeah, this is silly," you know?
Well, if it's right, it's awesome.
Right.
But I think you have to start with their level of education. Like, that's why you can't just throw information at them. You have to teach them what it means first, why we use it.
Yep.
There's got to be a foundation in place. So when you have that, what I've found is they come to you in flocks of incredible information. Like, our guys have thought of things that I would never think of ever, you know? And the guys that we're developing, and they're like, hey, what if I do this? I'm like, that's genius. Yeah, let's go do it. That's awesome. But isn't that the whole point?
Yeah, it should be a collaborative effort.
It's more than that. They're pitching.
Like, the point is that you want to teach them to be able to correct it themselves.
I want to teach them to fish.
Yeah.
I don't want to give them a fish.
Yeah.
That doesn't do any good for them. It feeds them for a day. You know, I want to. They're the ones pitching. I'm just helping them do that better. Ultimately, they have to be the one that's throwing the ball over the plate. So
yeah, I think especially in baseball, because these guys are going to further their careers. They're going to continue to play professionally. They're going to have a handful of more coaches going forward. So you're right. It's like the better that they can filter information themselves, quality information versus not, they can make decisions. They just have like more tools in their tool belt and a better understanding. Yeah, it's a good point.
That's it. You're investing in your career by coming and being a part of what we're doing right now.
Yeah. Well, and when they're on the mound too, like, that gives them, you're not there. You're not on the mound with them. So
I can't pitch with them.
You can't be in their brain telling them what, like, they need to be able to decipher that. Like, I was watching baseball with somebody the other day, and they were like, I could never be a pitcher. Give up 2 home runs. I'd be like, well, what's the fucking point? And that's real. Like, where you got the best pitchers can give up 2 home runs, maybe they're solo home runs, and they can get through that game. And maybe they don't have their best stuff, but they figure it out. And, like, that's like how you should be teaching them, is how to decipher that information themselves.
Totally.
I mean, you can throw a little bit of that.
You want some of this?
Yeah,
I was going to offer. You want it? Yeah.
Give me a second. I'll grab some of it.
Don't rush it. Is that too much?
No, we're good. We're good. We'll make it through. If we want to be on for an extra 20 minutes, we will.
Deal. You got it.
What are you doing during games?
So I stand next to our pitching coach and try to keep him centered. Anything and everything to help us win, basically. You know, it's just, if I need to have a conversation with someone, if I'm tracking things, you know what is interesting is it changes depending on the time of year, right? So in the beginning, I'm still in that kind of blending development phase of like, is this stuff taking? What adjustments do we need to make? And then towards the later third of the year, it's like just guardrail the hell out of them, like just make sure they don't go off the rails. That's it.
Yeah. How was the College World Series just the best baseball environment you've ever been in?
So as crazy and as intense as Omaha was, and it was unbelievable, and I definitely want to talk about that, the Super Regional in Winston-Salem was hands down the best environment I've been a part of in my career to this
Because
point.
college baseball, you win your conference tournament or you get a bid, you go to super regionals.
Yeah, regional first.
You go to regionals, then you go to super.
Yep.
Then you go to the World Series.
How many teams make it before to the regionals?
I think it's 64. I think it's the same as basketball.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. So 4 teams playing a regional. Yeah, there's 16 regionals.
So yeah, so in 64. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, because I remember looking at it and I saw that the softball was 64, and I've been trying to figure out the whole baseball, like how baseball and softball work compared to obviously like the NCAA basketball tournament. And then by the World Series, I was like, okay, I think I got it.
Why was the super so much crazier or better?
So we speaks to our team so highly, but we played in front of very few people, and then we played in front of everybody, and our team didn't change, but the crowd matched who we were as a team, and it was like a football game. It was
like, this is why do you watch a lot of sports or no?
Yeah.
I don't.
Mike does not watch sports.
None.
It blows every kid's mind in here.
Kids are wild.
Professional?
Any.
At all.
I used to a lot. Our whole childhood growing up, Jay, I mean, we were baseball obsessed. I could name every player. We had all the cards, football. I don't know. I think that it's because I went so to the fucking extreme with baseball. Obsessive. I get obsessive with things, and that was my thing growing up and through high school and college. And I think I just burned myself out. I only played my first 2 years of college baseball. I played freshman year, played sophomore year. I went to fall ball my junior year. And kind of the first week or two, I was just like, this isn't it. Like, I'm just not having fun.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about I'd rather be in the weight room or reading strength and conditioning stuff instead. I was just like, oh, shit, we have practice tomorrow. And I never felt like that.
It became a chore.
It became a chore.
Yeah.
And then I was just like, I'm done. And kind of when I shut the baseball switch off, I shut the sports switch off. I started watching fucking sci-fi shows and other television instead of sports, and reading different things instead of reading sports things. This is as much as I know about sports. Wasn't there last year a video of like maybe it was Mookie Betts on the Dodgers, like hitting a home run, and the guys are like jerking off on him in the dugout, pretending to, or piss on him? Can we look that up and confirm it? I'm going to look like a real weirdo if this is fake. Because you're like, Mike, what are you dreaming about, bro?
This is just from your own head, man.
Yeah, that scares the shit out of me.
I gotta go.
What do I Google?
I don't know. Paul, Google. Dodgers dugout.
Mookie Betts.
I think it was the first thing I just found.
That's a dangerous Google. You can't.
Yeah,
Google
it's fine. I'll clear my browser.
Yeah, no, you're 1,000% right. Just look up Mookie Betts celebration. It's the first video.
Have you seen this?
Now I know what you're talking about.
Mike, you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I do know what you're talking about. I forgot about it.
I didn't.
There it is.
Jay, yeah?
You know what, though? Knowing teams, not to defend them in any way, shape, or form, but there's some inside joke that they're just fucking around with each other.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Jay, confirm, please.
Yes.
Yeah. There's a
Confirmation.
water bottle on the face to end it.
Yep.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Crossing the line.
You know what you guys did in the Super or the World Series, and Jordan's gonna love this. And I don't know how you have young Jordan Google this. You guys did the Jay. What's in? I think you should leave the cab driver. The crooner, the driving crooner.
The driving crooner.
You guys did driving crooners in the dugout.
Did we?
Was that Wake Forest? I saw that.
Can you
I
Google
can't keep
it?
up with what they do, man. They come up with new shit every fucking day. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, we like the sketch comedy show called I Think You Should Leave. It's kind of ridiculous. But
I have seen that before.
Have
That is
you?
good.
Okay,
That's good,
yeah, we love it. But I think
It was Wake Forest.
Yeah. This episode of Off Exit 10 is brought to you by Drink Alchemy. Fatigue and brain fog affect us all, destroying everything we pursue. Whether as an athlete, artist, creator, or entrepreneur, our mind holds the key to performing optimally. By combining the most potent organic nootropics found in nature, Drink Alchemy delivers sustainable boost to creativity, memory, energy, and focus in one epic beverage. Stop pumping your body full of excessive amounts of caffeine and unknown proprietary blends from other energy drinks, and get clean energy from Drink Alchemy's natural nootropics like lion's mane, L-theanine, and caffeine from green tea. Used by Olympians, D1 athletes, MMA fighters, and entrepreneurs, Drink Alchemy has become a huge part of my daily routine, making sure I'm functioning optimally during long days of coaching athletes, running CDSF, and getting in quality workouts myself. So do yourself a favor and ditch the energy drinks loaded with caffeine, other stimulants, and who knows what else, and head over to drinkalchemy.com today. Live with your mind unbound and save 10% off your order by using code CDSF at checkout. That's drinkalchemy.com, promo code CDSF for 10% off your order today. How much? Okay, because college baseball, there's not as, and yeah, if you're not sure of these, let me know, but there's not as much money as there is in football or basketball. But how much has the new transfer portal rules where guys don't have to sit and the NIL affected how you guys are able to get guys or recruit guys?
So interesting situation for us is that right now we're not spending a ton of NIL money.
Mm-hmm.
And at Wake, for Wake baseball, I should
Are
say.
any baseball programs spending money?
Yes, LSU specifically for one. So that's what made that series so interesting. It's in a lot of ways money versus development.
Right. See, I like this. This is interesting because this trickles down to the younger levels.
Yes.
Because you have guys with NIL, you can just find money and say, hey, you come here, you're going to make X amount of dollars.
Yes, and the money for donors in college sports is enormous. It's huge, and it's not as big as major league owners per se, but it's as soon as that flip flopped and they started paying players, I mean that changed everything.
Yeah, because we had Dan Gableman on, who's a strength coach for Union, and like his primary duty is their hockey team.
Mm-hmm.
And he told me since the transfer portal, you now don't have to sit a year. It's hard for them to build a really good team like they did when they won it in 2012 or 2013.
Wasn't there a few guys that were on the teams that have won the last couple of years?
Yeah, because they'll have guys that go to them for a year. They'll develop them. They'll prove themselves at the D1 level, and then they'll say, all right, I'm out. I'm going to go to Quinnipiac. I'm going to go to BU. I'm going to
Ohio State,
Minnesota.
Like
before, he's like sitting out a year would deter guys, but now it's like we're almost just the stepping stone for people.
I think in our sport, it's easier to build a team this way because it's free agency without contracts is basically what the transfer portal is right now. It's like you're not tied to anything and you can just hop wherever you want to. It's pretty unbelievable. But the pieces you can put in place are far more plug and play. So back to the question about how we're using it, I don't want to say we're not using it, but it's more about development. We're doubling down on like, hey, we know how to make guys better. Come here and get better. Yeah. You want to get $1 million right now in NIL money, or do you want it like a big league career?
Yeah.
Do you want to go in the first round?
Do you want $10 million a year?
Do you want to go in the first round?
Baseball, yeah.
You know what I mean? Do you want to be a part of the best thing you've ever been a part of in your life? Do you want to have a place to come back and train at for the rest of your career?
Yeah.
This is a building. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, and the people here are the best resources you can have. So you're investing in a culture, and you're investing in the long term of being part of that culture. And I just think that outweighs the short term check.
That's in a different way. That's trickled down to the youth level. I feel like we're almost fighting that fight here. I'll never do a travel team. I'll never.
Somebody actually brought it up to us recently too.
Yeah, it's just too much of a headache. I'm not going to deal with playing time. I'm not going to deal with that. I feel like, because at the younger level, you'll have people that will take a shit ton of money from kids to play on an elite team. They won't put much work into their development or care about them much as a person, past just like, you're going to go play on my team. And then they'll push them towards signing. Give me some more of is it called the Jeffersons?
You want Jefferson's option?
I want to stay SC for
what do you got on
longer.
Lagavulin?
I like this. This is I'm rocking with what I got right now.
I'm gonna finish that. Give me some more Jeffersons.
It's definitely gonna put me in presence. Is that
see what I mean?
Yeah, it's definitely.
Isn't that crazy?
Well, dude, you poured it, and I'm sitting here. I'm like smelling. I'm like, that's definitely strong.
All right, give me one more here. Then I'll go over there. Okay. But okay, what I was saying, and then they'll play a role in pushing a kid to commit to a college, maybe not the best college for them, maybe it is.
Or too soon.
And then kind of use it as advertising or clout. And it's like, you've done nothing to help develop this kid as a person or as an athlete. You've just kind of pushed them through your system, marketed them for committing them to this school. I feel like, you just see this trickle down that drives us crazy in here. Do you see that?
I do. It's very real. Everyone's playing a game.
But sometimes the parents don't know. They don't know what's best. They don't know the difference between development and exposure, or development and being on an elite team, whatever you want to call that. Fucking elite 11-year-old team is a ridiculous statement.
Yeah. It's where the money is. Summer, like the whole show ball stuff and summer travel, it's where the money is. It's as simple as that for me.
Are there benefits in certain scenarios for a kid to go through this showcase tournament circuit versus spend time in the weight room, spend time learning about their mechanics and their body and pitching? Is there room for both?
Yeah, I don't think it's binary. I think you can do both those things because there are different times a year.
Right.
If you do it right. So if you develop, I would suggest that guys develop as pitchers in the fall and take a break and refine what they're learning through their on-ramp in the spring, and then compete their ass off. And when they're competing their ass off and they're at show ball and they're getting found, then hell yeah.
Right. Right. You're saying you use fall ball for that, or you don't do fall ball?
No,
and
you use fall ball to work on your skills.
That's a good question.
Or you're saying you're developing in the weight room with the pitching coach, learning about your body instead of fall ball? Or both?
I think it depends on the situation and on the person. I'm not going to say either one, but I think it's what you need. So, all right, so let's take two examples, right? So one example is you got a kid that's really big. He's really mobile. He's worked on a lot of shit, and he didn't get a whole lot of innings in the spring. He should probably pitch. He needs pitching experience.
Yeah.
Right? You get a kid who pitched a ton and halfway through the summer, and then he shut down the second half of the summer, and now he's just literally waiting until spring.
Okay,
that kid should wait.
Okay,
he
so
should work on something.
We see this with a lot of college baseball players here in the summer.
I was just going to say, we just had that right
Is
now.
that most of our college guys that we see in here, at least, they didn't throw a lot of innings during the year, but their college summer team roster has 20, 25 pitchers who didn't throw a lot of innings during the year.
Sure.
And all of a sudden, we come to July, and I talked to a kid yesterday. How many innings you got? I got 6. How many throw this year? I threw 4.
Ooh.
It's like, dude,
Ooh.
what the fuck are you doing?
It's just
Driving 3 hours, spending 4 hours at a field every
That's
day.
just on the wrong
You're-
team, dude.
Right.
You got to pitch, man. You got to face hitters.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like I feel like I don't know where it gets lost, if it's just a little bubble we live in. I'm sure that's not everywhere. But it's like, yeah, we need better communication. Like, you got to know, if I'm going to go here this summer, I'm going to get my 30 innings. I'm going to get my...
I think the rich get richer in that regard, meaning programs have relationships with summer teams where they go, this guy's going to come and pitch here, or I'm not going to send him. Plain and simple.
Yeah.
Right. So you hold them accountable to that. So there's a little bit of like a placement to the level that you're at, for sure. But if you're not pitching in summer ball, what are you doing?
Right.
You're hanging out, like,
Yeah.
having a good time.
Yeah, you're spending
you know?
so much
Building
time to
seed
You're
not
not
piles.
pitch.
developing. You have to compete.
Yeah.
It's so underrated competing. It's so underrated.
Yeah.
We don't compete anymore. We take the compete out of so much. They work on their bodies, and they work on their mechanics, and they work on stuff, and they don't work on competing. And competing is the ultimate skill. It's truly a skill.
That's what we grew up on. We've had these talks with Steve Daggs and maybe Tay or somebody else. We grew up on just competing in the backyard,
Yeah.
beating the fuck out of each other, talking shit, getting
Yeah.
into arguments, but competing.
That's where you win. You
Probably
learn to be a winner,
a couple
man.
punches thrown at
I
some
think
point.
that if you
not,
explain to a kid that in the between the ages of fucking 7 and 13, I got better than you'll get by just competing in the backyard with my friends all summer, or driving to Ghent Rec and hanging out with our friend Box, who just wanted to rip everybody's head off. Like, better doing that than getting 3 lessons a week
Yeah.
and playing on a travel team and throwing
Well, it builds
4 innings on a weekend.
The competing builds a mental
You were-
mental toughness that
'Cause you're-
the other stuff doesn't.
Yeah, you're around our age group, or like you grew up with that in the backyard.
So that was my whole child. I'm still best friends with those guys.
Yeah, man.
I just spent a whole week with those guys.
Yeah.
You know? Like, yeah, it's like...
But
I work with
and
them.
we still compete. Like, yes. Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah, but we still compete. We're
still
still
compete.
competing in a different realm.
We have... My buddy's going to love this. You play Mario Baseball on GameCube when you were growing up? Did you play that game?
Jay, did you?
Yeah.
You
Jay's
did?
a big video game guy, so yeah.
Yeah.
Have you played it recently?
No, I don't have a GameCube anymore.
Okay, well, A, they're like $50. B, whoever worked on this game fucking geniuses. Geniuses. The ability that these guys have to like mimic real baseball in this like handheld controller game decades later is unfathomable.
Like you
That's
got
unbelievable.
you got like Wario up there just with nice mechanics and
Dude, you legitimately like see like intangibles in the game that shouldn't happen are happening, and you're like, what the fuck?
is Yoshi up there doing it?
Yoshi's lightning fast, and he has great bat speed. I know the game so well. And he's got like an egg special hit, and it just bounces everywhere. But you're like, each guy has his own plays, and he plays better here, and he plays better in relief, and he's got this. And it's like unbelievable, dude. It's so much fun. But we still compete at that shit. Like we play all the fucking time. It's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that you played on a GameCube.
Yeah, I feel
with
like
the wire and everything, dude. Coming out.
I feel like
awesome.
I went Super Nintendo was like the big thing for us, and then we got an N64, and it was like Mario 64 and Smash Bros. Ken Griffey Jr. baseball.
Oh, good one.
They had like the little yellow dot thing to line up.
Did you ever play? So the show was big, but the NBA version of the show. Did you ever play that?
What was it called?
It's just called NBA 08, 09.
I think so.
And it's like there was this story mode where you had an objective and you had to complete the objective within the game, or else you didn't move on.
Mm-hmm.
That game was fucking awesome. They don't make games like that anymore.
Like Jordan writes for IGN, the video game entertainment website. You would say, Jay?
Yeah.
Jay, what if you were to write an article on like your top sports games? What would you throw on there?
Slugfest.
Oh,
I think that was around like 03.
wasn't the
Slugfest was
commentary in
filthy.
Slugfest just the funniest thing? That's hilarious. It was awesome.
Too. Yeah.
Like they would pan away from the dude like beating the shit out of the other guy on second
Jay, can you
base.
find
It's
it?
so funny.
Slugfest commentary.
Slugfest was great. Slugfest
I can't wait to hear this.
Jay, what about like
Backyard baseball's on there.
Oh,
For
yeah,
the-
me
know
too.
what?
I
NFL
grew
Blitz,
up on that.
NFL Blitz has got to be on
NFL Blitz, one of the early NHL games in
Yeah.
the 90s. Those were
MVP.
NHL hits was
MVP baseball.
fantastic. That's a good one.
baseball.
MVP baseball with Manny Ramirez.
With Manny on the front, yeah.
that
05.
game was
Yep.
amazing.
Yep, it was great.
That was like one of my that game.
Do you remember when Kurt Schilling tried to make his own baseball game and it didn't go so well?
No,
RBI baseball.
because I hate Kurt Schilling. So he played for the Red Sox and
I can't wait to hear the commentary on.
the
Slugfest.
Slugfest?
It's gonna be
Yeah,
so
is
good.
there anything that exists that we can play that's good?
It's just joke after joke, man. I'm beating the shit out of guys and hitting homers and laughing my ass
Who
off.
was on the cover of that first Slugfest? Was it
A-Rod.
A-Rod.
As Texas Ranger.
Yes,
Yeah.
you're right.
that sounds about right.
Okay, this is going to be trial and error. I don't know with YouTube what we're going to get.
Yeah, give us one. Let's just see.
Just don't give me Chris Collinsworth.
Who wrote these scripts?
I don't know, but
commentary?
doesn't everyone know a dad who can do that voice fucking perfectly?
Oh yeah, I was literally thinking of like 3 guys in this gym that I'm like, wow, this sounds
Mike,
just like them.
I didn't know what to expect right there. That was great.
That was great. We need to sign a petition to remake that game. That's got to be remade.
Great game, man.
It's good.
You got to remake it, but it can't suck.
Remember the guy got on fire and he couldn't ever get out.
Yeah, you can knock the ball out of the guy's
It's
hands.
so baseball.
Oh, you know what one we forgot about? Video game? NBA Jam.
Ooh, great.
Oh,
one.
NBA Street.
NBA Street.
Yeah.
Volume 2.
NBA Jam, man. Like, going out into like the bowling alley and playing fucking that NBA game on the goddamn big arcade thing. That's the greatest game ever. Love that game.
Great games. But because of where we're at with youth sports and money and are the days of
Back to serious.
Yeah. Are the days of competing in the yard with your friends done? Is there ever going back to that? I would like there
Well,
to be.
I think the technology puts a hindrance on that, don't you?
Yeah.
They're just looking at their fucking phones all the time, man.
Yeah.
Not that, and I get it, but people aren't present with each other when they're sitting and eating with each other, and it makes me feel sad. I feel sad about that. Why? You know what I mean? Like my whole life is about being present with the people I really love.
Have you always been like that though, or did you have to learn that?
I've always been like that.
That's incredible.
But I owe that to my parents, I think, for little things like I couldn't have video games till I was like 14 or something like that. So I just play them at buddy's house. You know what I mean? But it was like I was present. It forced me to be present with things.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Yeah, that's important. I feel like that's something I had to learn later in life. Like, I don't know, in my mid-20s, I feel like just like go through some shit. Sam and I are on our own, trying to figure shit out. You go through bumps in your relationship. And all of a sudden, you go to therapy, you talk to people, you work through stuff, and you're like, dude, I'm just like, my mind's everywhere, always.
Yeah.
And
Do you have dad power right now?
Do I have dad power?
Yeah, do you feel the dad power?
I don't think I feel dad power.
I had a couple of friends that have kids recently, and they're like, yeah, dude, the dad power is a real thing.
No,
It kicks in.
I guess if dad power is,
I mean, there was definitely a switch.
there's a switch. I guess if this is dad power, before I would just stay here as long as I possibly could, just to do shit. Like, I clear my to-do list and I'd be like, what else can I get done? And stuff that's not even like of priority. And now I'm like, my mind is still you have to be more present. When I'm here, I have to be more present because I can't waste time because I want to be home with my daughter. So now I'm here and I'm like, how quickly can I get home? But the more present I am, the more focused I am on the task at hand.
So it's a constraint in a positive way.
In a positive way. Yeah, in a positive way.
I would say for sure in a positive
But I feel
way.
like that's life. It's like, okay, I'm not in a serious relationship or I'm not married. I've been with Sam forever. As people hear this, they're like, dude.
High school?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fucking,
Since I was
Where'd you go?
Since I was 14, Chatham.
Nice. Wow.
Chatham.
Chatham High School.
Yeah.
What year?
You know Chatham?
I know of Chatham.
Yeah, small town.
I was 08, he was 09.
Yeah, so I've known Paul since I was like 7. But yeah, okay, you get married, you have to be more present and there. If not, stuff's going to be bumpy and you're going to struggle in your relationship. And then I open a business and I have to be more present with clients and with employees and better at reflecting and like evaluating what's really going on. And I feel like a kid's just another tier to that.
Bro, you get to be more present.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
It's a goddamn opportunity for you.
yeah.
It's awesome. There's so much to relish in that experience. It's awesome for you. It's so cool.
Yeah, it's the greatest thing ever. It's my favorite thing. Before we went on air, I showed Jordy a video of our daughter just laughing her face off yesterday. Before I had a kid, I would probably think nothing of that. And now I'm like, this is the greatest video I've ever had on my phone.
That's
ever.
dad power. There it
Yeah,
is.
that's
what I'm
the
talking about.
dad power.
Yeah,
dad power.
I
The
guess
little things in life that you
No
just
doubt.
go, wow, this is fucking awesome.
I'm not ready for kids. I can't do it yet.
Listen, you and me both.
Had a feeling.
If one pops up somewhere,
You're,
Yeah, who's to say?
you know what's crazy? You're never ready. You're never ready.
No, I mean,
But
Do
what's
you think you're never ready?
I
Yeah, I
You don't think you hit a time in your life where you're like, okay. I
okay?
can do
Here's
this
this though. Our story's different, and Sam's. I'll share this. Sam will be okay with it. So yeah, I mean, you spend all of your years trying to not get somebody pregnant, right? You do.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what you're doing. And then when we start to try, we have a hard time.
now. I've heard this so many times.
We have
yeah.
a hard time, and we start trying in 2019.
Wow.
And
Took that long?
Yeah, no luck. I mean, and we learn about medical stuff along the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we end up doing IVF. We end up doing 3 IVF cycles. The third works, so it becomes to 2023, 2019, really.
4
2020,
years.
becomes a 4-year process.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, at some point you hit this point where you're like, oh my God, what if I can't? I want this.
Isn't that that's a horrible thought?
It was a horrible thought, and in 2022,
Humbles you. For
yeah,
Sure.
and in April
sure.
in 2022, our grandma passed away, who we were close to. We grew up with our whole life. Our whole family goes to the hospital. We're all together, my uncles, my cousins, and, we know it's coming. And during that time, probably a month earlier, we had, didn't have success in another IVF. And you're like, fuck, like you see one generation gone, and you're like, oh my God, what if I can't have the next generation? And that was the heaviest.
Yeah.
And that is when it finally clicked, when I was like, I absolutely want to have a kid. That was the first time where I was like 100% I want to have a
The
kid.
idea that your bloodline might end right
Yeah,
there.
you see one go.
Yeah.
One generation go, and you're like, oh my God, look how everybody just came together. What if I can't continue this everybody coming together?
You did.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty extreme for us, but that was the first time I was like, man, this is what I want.
It's awesome.
yeah, and I think you can be ready, but you're still never ready. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
you can
no
be
doubt.
prepared, but you're still never like ready. Because you like when
That's
that
why
thing shows up, you're just like, oh fuck, this is a human.
There's no way you can prepare for that.
Yeah.
As best as you, well, you could try.
Yeah, you can.
I don't know.
You can prepare yourself, but like I don't know if you're ever 100% ready until it happens, and then you go, all right,
Well,
this shit's happening.
Well, that's when it became real.
Mm-hmm.
This became real. I mean, until the baby's in your hands. It's like,
I even remember with us when we were talking about schedule change and all this stuff, like up until like probably around when Sam was like pretty much gonna have the baby, I felt like there was just like, yeah, we'll be all right. We'll figure this out. Da da da. And then switch flipped. Baby came, and like everything went right in line the way it was supposed to. And I was like, all right, awesome. But there was a time where I was like, okay, is Mike gonna understand that? Okay, you got to be home more often. You know, same with Dan, who just had his son. Like, you got to be home more often. Like, we'll figure the gym's gonna stay standing, and it's your baby, and I get it. But now you have a real baby.
But that's where setting up, like with you at Wake and your team, and like that's where setting up a team and systems is so important, because I have my baby, Dan it's his baby, and you're just like, okay, everything's in place.
Systems run themselves.
Let's initiate, and things are gonna
Gym
go.
didn't burn down.
Yeah.
Hopefully not.
Not yet.
Hopefully not.
So, but it was definitely a good change for sure.
Yeah. And you think, where'd you go to high school?
So I went to Catholic Central High School, which
Okay.
is apparently no longer a thing. I heard this recently.
Wait, what?
Yeah, it's not open anymore.
Oh.
Or it merged, maybe it merged.
I
with
think it
that
might have
school.
merged because we have. I know there's somebody in here. One of our
But what?
kids goes, or not our kids, but
How
somebody
big
said
was your
similar.
graduating class?
86.
What year did you graduate?
89, something like that. 2011 I was.
So did you play multiple sports in
I
high
did,
school?
yes.
What'd you play?
I played. I ran cross country in the fall, which is not really playing anything.
I'm glad you said it because I was
I
going to
was
say
running in one direction.
track's a sport.
And I played basketball through 3 years. I didn't play my senior year.
How many of
You would have been a nasty wide receiver, man.
your
I appreciate that.
how many of your pitchers on Wake just played baseball versus
Yeah.
played other sports in high school?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. I know of both, for sure.
Of both.
I don't know how many, but I know that some guys played many sports, and I know that some played just one.
So you could get to the top specializing in high school or not. In our field, it's like sports specialization is a negative term. You think about overuse injuries, you think about the psychology and burnout. You have a 14-year-old that's coming with you. He's pitching. You're working on things, and he says, "Mike, I think I'm going to quit basketball. I think I just want to work on my pitching stuff in the winter." How do you handle that? What do you say?
So as always, and as preface, it's very dependent on the person in the situation, for sure.
Okay.
It's not. There's not a binary answer to
Give
anything.
me
You have to
a
feel it
situation.
out.
Give me a situation where you would say, "No, dude, keep playing basketball."
Okay, so this is interesting. I think it's different for position players and for pitchers.
Explain.
And here's why. Position players rely on athleticism. And when you're playing multiple sports, especially basketball or football, which seems to be the other sport that most baseball players play, it's so reactionary and it's so in flow and it's so hard-nosed all at the same time that I think the skills they reap from that directly benefit their ability to be a college baseball player. Pitchers can certainly apply the same information for sure, but they're more rotators than they are athletes.
Pitching is such a specific skill set.
Yes, it's rotation. It's so whittled down to how well do I rotate, and it's such a you have to labor over the skill of doing that to be so good at it. That I can see why people do that. I like to say that pitching and baseball are two different sports.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it.
It is a good way to look
it's
at
like,
it.
I think I know that in my head, but I never think about it like that.
Right, but it's true.
Yeah, because other field sports, let's just say lacrosse, soccer, basketball, football, there's a lot of carryover with lateral movement, change of direction, hand-eye coordination, reaction.
I was gonna say reactiveness, like not thinking too much. Because in baseball, you could overthink the entire game.
Yes.
Because you could not have a ball hit to you the entire game.
Yeah.
And just be thinking about, well, I struck out the last 2 times. What am I gonna do now?
And if you think that way, guess where the ball's coming?
Yeah, right.
Right at you,
Right.
or
Like,
you,
that's
or guess what's happening the next at bat?
It's the
You're striking out.
intangible
Dude,
baseball
Mike,
that you can talk.
listen to this. We'll get back to pitching. But I went into college as an infielder.
Mm-hmm.
I made the team as a shortstop, second baseman, utility guy in the infield. Go to Arizona for our spring trip. Hadn't seen any innings. We're probably in game 4 or 5. We went out there with like one less outfielder. Somebody got hurt. and then like one or two other guys go down. We're mid-game, and coach is like, some outfielder gets hurt. He's like, we have nobody. Who's going out there? I was like, hey, fuck, sure. Me. And Paul, I mean, could you picture me playing outfield, Paul?
No.
We played together since we were 7 years old.
It'd be like me playing infield.
And
like,
Mike,
it's not meant to happen.
Mike, I swear the first 3 balls get hit to me, bro.
Yep. The ball finds you, man. It's baseball.
I run circles. I make 2 diving plays, which should have been routine plays.
Yeah.
And then I became an outfielder. Like, I played most of my innings in college in left field and right, which Paul's probably like,
yeah. Mike could catch a pop-up in the infield like it's nothing. A fly ball to the outfield, Mike's like,
terrifying.
where the fuck is this ball going?
It's hilarious.
And me, you hit a ground ball at me in the infield, I'm just going to Olay it. I'm telling you that right now. I'm Olaying it, and I'm going to the outfield.
That makes sense. But, okay, so then this goes to my next question. You have your development as a pitcher. Mm-hmm. That's your development of a specific skill. Your development as an athlete, to me, is different.
Yes.
That's a variety of movement patterns. That's using different energy systems. That's putting your mind in different places. That's different. When can you rob somebody of losing out on athletic development versus pitching development? Because if you're 14, you stop basketball, you're all of a sudden dropping out of your athletic development bucket to put in your pitching development bucket.
Yeah.
Correct?
And it certainly goes into both. Like, certainly, if you play multiple sports and you're an awesome athlete, it's going to help you as a pitcher.
Correct.
It is. But there are so many pitchers who aren't amazing athletes.
Agreed.
Yes.
That they should just focus on the one thing that's going to get them somewhere.
So
It's doubling down on what you're good at.
Yeah, so how are we learning when it's okay to tell the kid, yeah, you know what, if you want to play in college, you got to put your eggs all in the pitching bucket?
Well, it's not necessarily true. That's the thing. I think if let's talk about the one aspect of this that most people don't talk about, which is the competitive skill. We don't train the competitive skill. So you're going to take them out of more competition to put them in an environment where they're competing less most of the time.
You're saying take them away from another sport.
Take them away from another sport where they're competing to help make them work on skills where they're not competing.
Competing is a skill. I can't, like, you figure out how to win. It doesn't matter what you're doing. Figure out how to win.
Right.
There's a reason why people would take Derek Jeter over Alex Rodriguez. Derek Jeter was a winner. A-Rod needed Jeter to win. So it's like that competitiveness is a skill.
I think I unfollowed. I followed Alex Rodriguez on like Instagram for a minute, and it was fucking.
I definitely don't follow
miserable.
I definitely don't follow him. I'll follow Derek Jeter all day. It's my childhood. Man's never let me down.
Social media is kind of miserable.
It is miserable.
It's
What's
miserable.
it doing to us, man?
Nothing. Well, it's
free,
free
it's free
No, it's
marketing.
doing something to us.
If
It
I-
is.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it
doing
is.
bad things.
I think it's mostly bad things.
Mostly bad things. There are some
There are
good.
good things. There is connecting with people.
Reachability.
Yes.
Your ability to reach people
That's a
is
positive.
huge, but it's exploited for sure.
Well, and that's
of
where
course.
in here I've done it with a couple kids in here, where I told them, I was like, dude, you know so much about sports, you can talk sports to the best. So I'm like, start a podcast, start a Twitter page for it, start this. And now they have something productive to do with their social media.
Yes.
And both of the kids that I told this to went, and one of them started like a blog and like all this other stuff. One's done a podcast. He's got an Instagram page for it.
There's definitely positive ways to do it.
You can impact people.
You can impact people. If I didn't own a business, I wouldn't be on it. You'll never see my house. You'll never see my kid on social.
I'm barely on my social, personal.
I think like anything else, it's about choosing what you consume. And it's very difficult with social media because there are so many options.
Yes,
it's just infinite.
Meta just started Thread. It's their version of Twitter. All of a sudden, here's
I saw that, and I went, "No, that's Twitter for Instagram." That's
It looks
basically what
just
that
like
is.
Twitter.
Yeah.
It looks just like Twitter.
It's the same
It's
thing.
like it's so interesting how they frame the same idea in different colors, and no one bats an eye. Isn't that fascinating?
No,
it's
but
the
it
same
also,
fucking idea.
Also, I don't know what I think about either of these guys, but it was a savage move by like Zuckerberg. Like he hasn't posted to Twitter. I think I read in like 10 years, and he
interesting.
posted the other day,
Does that mean he wanted to?
and he just posted like the 2 Spider-Mans like pointing at each
Oh,
other.
that's fantastic.
Oh, he's calling a shot.
Yeah,
That
and
proves
then he
that point.
if you go on Threads, he put a button with the little Twitter logo that just
Yeah.
says like tweet my thread. So you can just put what you put in
that's
his
bad.
thing over
That's
to.
funny.
Like that's a savage move, though.
That's just rubbing your nose at it. For
Yeah,
sure.
that's. But yeah, there's positive ways and there's not. It takes away from you being present.
It definitely takes away from you being present.
You're getting-
I fight that, man.
I fight it too.
You know how many times I sit down and my body wants to just open up my phone and open something?
Isn't that crazy, Mike?
It's all the time.
You don't know what
All
you're
the time.
doing, but you're doing it.
And I put a time limit on it, and it still doesn't work.
You
It's
go on your
wild.
phone. You go on your phone. just to go on your phone. Like you don't even have a reason sometimes.
Like, I
You're
got
just like,
rid
I'm going to
of,
go on it because
if people find an open space,
they'll go on it.
they go on it. They
I
plug
got
it
rid-
immediately.
I got rid of notifications on all social media, so I don't
Yeah.
get the red bubbles.
Yeah.
That's been helpful.
That's good.
Because
That's
even
a-
if you
That
tell
doesn't
your-
feel like you need to complete something.
That's how I am.
Yeah,
Like if I see a
same
red bubble,
way.
I'm like, that's got to go.
Yeah. But it's so God, it's so much. If you're out at a restaurant and you see two people at a table and you see one person get up to go to the bathroom, bang,
phone out.
immediately.
I've done it.
Immediately.
Yep.
To the point where the person I'm sitting with goes to grab something, and I just sit there. And I just like sit back and I'm like,
Is that
I'm
a
not gonna do it.
mechanism to? Is that a mechanism though to not feel what you're really feeling and just put your brain somewhere else and you're?
I think it's because they're not comfortable with themselves to some degree. And whether that's not wrong with them, it's just it's how it is. Like they can't sit comfortably with themselves for that long.
Yeah.
And that's we're used to avoiding our own self-conflict rather than sitting with ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's scary because, I mean, just with kids, it's like it's only going to become more and more. You have a new platform pop up the other day. You're going to have.
It's going to be in our brains.
You're going to have VR. Yeah, we're going to have
It's
fucking
going to be in our brains.
Neuralinks in
It's
our
already,
head.
Dude, have you watched any of that? It's like
Sometimes I do.
how could it not head that way? How could it not?
I think it goes here
I'm gonna go get
to
an
like
island.
VR glasses to like. So it's like. What's
VR
the,
glasses come and they go, this is too inefficient. This is a layer.
Right.
And then they start peeling people's brains back.
Because already
Throwing
like
something in it. That's what's
VR
gonna happen.
and like the metaverse is. What's the movie, Jordan? And it's a book too.
Ready Player One.
Ready Player One.
Ah, freaky. It's a freaky movie.
Yeah, that exists to a degree.
It does, yeah. Watching Elon talk about,
The Neuralink.
hey, like, dude, he meets with the real,
He's a fucking alien.
real people.
He's a fucking alien.
He's smart as shit.
You've seen Men in Black, right? Like the movie Men in
Yep.
Black.
Yep.
You know like how the aliens like take
Yep.
over their bodies.
Yeah,
He
you think
looks
he's
like
him?
he's from
Interesting.
that movie.
Interesting.
Like there's an alien inside of him
Maybe.
running his body.
That's what's scary. If I let myself sit with my thoughts about having our daughter now, is that like, what is?
Yeah, who'd
what,
you bring it into this world?
What is the world gonna be? Because I mean, everybody her age is gonna
But
be.
that's an opportunity for you.
Yes, but to a degree. If,
Imagine the advantage she has in life if she goes through life present and with herself and with people. That's an amazing gift. Mm-hmm. It's an advantage that people don't have.
That's what I love about like my sisters and how they've raised my nieces and nephews. Like they almost force them to be present.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, and then and they enjoy being present.
Yeah.
yeah, that's why I do this in person only and not.
Oh, this is awesome.
and not-
You guys have something so great here, by the
love
way.
it.
I
Great.
appreciate you.
It's awesome.
Yeah,
Thank
not
you.
through Zoom because
No, you can't do it through Zoom.
You can't.
You're,
And-
just, you're listening to respond. You're not really.
Yeah, you can't be present.
You can't have a connection with people. You
No.
know? It's awesome. It's over whiskey. You let your guard down a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, this whiskey was in the fucking, I don't know what ocean, but it was in an
It
ocean.
was
Do we
in
know
an
what
Is
ocean?
it? No, I don't.
It was in an ocean.
I don't know. It's got the map of the world on the back of it. Who knows where it was?
Are you
Could
looking
be
it up,
anywhere.
Jay?
It's the Indian
Jefferson's?
Sea.
I
Indian
think,
Ocean.
I think it was
Indian
kind.
Sea.
I think it was kind of near Cape Cod, like kind
Was
of.
it?
No, I was just joking because it was like I'm pretty sure like not that far off
So I
of Cape
brought
Cod
this-
is where the Titanic went
I
down.
brought this to the. I just learned that.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
Not that,
I didn't know
It's
that.
not that far off Cape Cod.
So I brought this to the Cape. It was a perfect match on the beach at night with the fire with the boys.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So
Absolute
good.
Perfection. Yeah.
Do we know Jay or is it a mystery?
We'll let the mystery be. I don't know.
It's fucking in
That's fair.
some dude's pool. This episode of Off Exit 10 is brought to you by Anchor and the all-new Anchor Pro. Crafted to endure the most high-performance workouts without the high cost and space requirements of a standard cable machine. Named the best portable cable machine by Men's Health Home Gym Awards, Anchor provides the full functionality of a cable machine in one small space-saving unit. Designed with user-friendliness in mind, Anchor can simply be attached to any squat rack or placed on any wall in your home gym using its intuitive sliding track mount. With up to 65 pounds of resistance, Anchor is built for high speed and controlled exercises alike, from cable presses and rows to chops and lifts. The Anchor has been a game changer for us here at CDSF, and now you can enjoy the same professional quality cable machine in your own home gym by heading over to anchortraining.com and using code CDSF10 for 10% off your order today. Get all the benefits of a cable machine without the high cost and installation fees. Enjoy the portable luxury and space-saving performance of Anchor today by going to anchortraining.com and using code code CDSF10 at checkout. That's anchortraining.com, promo code CDSF10 for 10% off your order today.
All right, let's talk pitching. Ask me some pitching stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're talking about rotation. That's such an important quality. Hips being able to rotate, your torso being able to rotate. So when you're looking at somebody's, because everybody's going to rotate differently or to different degrees based on how they move in their body.
Mm-hmm.
Where are you starting to evaluate that and say, how can I make you a better, a more efficient rotator?
One frame.
Go.
In video, one frame. And it's where their front leg starts to block. It's when it's on the ground and starts to stabilize in relation to how much is rotated from their pelvis, trunk, and shoulders. That's everything. You can nail it. You can whittle it down to that frame. And you can work backwards from how they got there and what happens after that, but that is the root of biomechanics from an efficient perspective. Are they blocking all of that rotation from that point?
So their front foot's down.
Yes.
They're planted, and now they're starting to rotate.
Their femur is coming back into them. How much rotation has occurred, or how much rotation is going into their block is going to go back into the arm. That's the frame to work backwards from.
Okay, let's then break it down more. You'll see somebody who's really inefficient at that block. They're planting, and that front knee is going forward too much.
Yeah.
Is bent, correct?
Yeah.
How are you okay, so you see that. Where are you starting to choose? This is where I'm going to go at it with you. This is where we're going to make our first intervention.
Hit me. Let's go.
Where are you making your first intervention, or what's making you make that choice of this is what I'm going at?
There are so many different options, but that tells everything because it's the ultimate which direction do I head in. So here, stick your fist out real quick. What are you doing?
Resisting.
Right, so all I did was push into your fist, and you automatically push back into mine. I didn't tell you what to do. That's the front leg. If it receives energy the correct way, it will block and send it back up the chain.
So you're saying what? Into the ground.
So if you feed your front leg correctly with your back leg, it will react appropriately and transfer that energy backwards.
Basically generate a force up to your arm.
Yes. And this is an example of the whittling. I call it the whittling process, where you literally whittle down away from the fat and get to a point where you find an ultimate process. Like, what's the one thing I can do with this dude that fixes his
Are you
sequence?
just using that video? Or are you using the video, maybe things your athletic trainer saw in terms of ranges of motion, other movement patterns?
You can see it when you study enough video, you begin to see it. Here's my favorite thing about data and about technology is so if you look around our lab, most of it is cameras. Most of it is just a lens, right, from different angles. We have it's like 25 cameras, something like that. And if you think about cameras, they're just eyes, but they're tracking information better than we can in our brains, right? And they're saving it, but it's the same exact process. So if you use the information to look at the video and understand visually what's occurring, you can start to look at video by eye and by hand and make changes. And that's how we're, like, you look at our pitching staff, that's how we're making changes so quickly, is by video. It's like, wow, we know what to look for immediately. I mean, it's to the point where, like, obviously the data helps to be sure, but you watch a video of a guy and you go, oh, he's got to do this, this, and this. It starts that second. And usually we walk downstairs after that conversation and tell the kid and start working.
I mean, that makes sense, though, to use film and video, because when I think of, my main sport that I played was football, and I think of the amount of film study that goes into football.
Yeah.
From the macro level as a team to the micro level as the quarterback, the coach, the running back, the offensive lineman.
But can you look at that
same thing.
Can you look at that video and you see how he moves and where his body's positioned and go, he lacks hip rotation there, he lacks stability there, he lacks rotation here, this is what we got to work on?
All of those things, yes.
Like if you put him on a table or watch him move, I know what I'm going to see.
It's to a point where, again, you train yourself to, I call it seeing in color. Like, I think the majority of people watch the game as, what happens and strategically, like who moved wherever, but there's an underlying layer that you can see in color that you use data to understand, and it teaches you about the game, and you see it in a way that you can't see after that.
Okay, but what did you study in college?
Mass communications.
Right. Like you don't have
like everybody else.
you don't have a biomechanics background, so you're self-taught in all this.
I do have a biomechanics background.
Where's that come from?
From experience. However, I don't have a biomechanics degree.
Right.
Those are two different things.
Right. But you're self-taught though
Yes.
in all the biomechanics that you know.
Which, in a very biased way, I think is better.
That's what when I worked I interned at Cressy Sports Performance, Massachusetts in 2012.
Yep.
And Matt Blake.
I remember that about you.
And Matt Blake was there. And
Were you at the same time?
I mean, Matt, yeah.
I really like that guy.
Matt's amazing.
I
And
like
Matt
that guy,
and
too.
Matt
As a Yankees fan.
Stelz.
He's smart as shit.
Stelz. He's a great guy
And
too.
he's a good person.
Yeah, he's a great person. Stelz, our high school coach, went up there and visited me when I was there. I met Matt and talked to him. This was in 2012. And now they go to some convention every year, and Stelz will go over. They remember each other. They'll talk. It's like,
Dude, Stelz knows fucking
yeah,
everybody.
But yeah, Matt,
It doesn't take long to start knowing almost everybody.
Yeah,
It's really interesting.
yeah, this field's small, and your
Yeah.
field too. I'm sure
It's small.
as you kind of climb
The
your way
circle
up.
of people who know what they're doing gets smaller and smaller.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know one person, you know everybody.
Yeah, but Matt didn't have any biomechanics background. He was a high school coach, and then doing lessons at
Yeah.
Cressy's, and I was there in 2012, and now
He's
this-
fucking pitching coach
coach
for
for
I
the
tell people all
Yanks.
the, like I'm in the lab and people ask me like, what was your degree in? And I'm like, not fucking this.
Yeah. Well,
You know?
and it's crazy because I saw something recently too, like just like somebody that became like one of the youngest like millionaires like ever or whatever, and he never went to college. He self-taught himself on YouTube and all other stuff, and it's just like the access to information. And we talked about like there's a lot of misinformation.
Yes.
But just the access you have to information, you don't always. It's much easier to go the unconventional route than it used to be 30 years ago.
Yes.
Where you didn't have the internet and you didn't have all this other stuff, so you did have to go to
Was
college.
it was it hard
for
for you to learn anatomical terms and that movement and be able to have conversations with ATs and with biomechanists?
No, and here's why, because it's so much more complex. All I had to do was understand it. They're human beings, so if I speak English, they get that. If I speak
unless they don't speak English.
If I speak science to a normal person, let's say, right. Humor me here, would you?
I'm just trying to be
Come
devil's
on.
advocate, you know?
God damn it!
It's my job here is to be devil's advocate.
It's
Anyway.
If you're an AT saying science language to a normal person, they'll never get it.
No.
They'll never get it. But if you speak normal English in normal person to a science person, they get that. And I think that's where the sport needs to head. I think it's where we're taking it.
I think that's strength training too.
But that gives you
It's everything.
That gives you a strength or a step above a lot of people, because I've spoken here before that I did a couple internships and I had some really good mentors who really like taught me that the foundation is relationships and communication. And you can know all this science shit.
So true.
But a lot of people, either they don't care or they're not going to relate to you when you just speak like that. So it's like younger kids who are coming out of school with biomechanics degrees or physiology degrees, and like that's how they speak to people, especially to the athlete. You're going to have a harder time.
That sounds like cliche,
But
it's true.
It's true.
It's true. It really is true. It's like I could give you the best idea ever, but if I say it to you in Chinese, and you've never seen Chinese or heard Chinese,
Yeah.
how are you going to understand that?
it's in here. We could have a new adult client, and I could give them the best explanation of how their body moves and why I'm choosing these exercises and their technique. And Paul could just talk to them about their kids and their weekend, and Paul will get them to sign up 100 times over what I would.
Right.
Well, and it's like you said, talk to them like a human being, and like I'd say, and I even because we have a new strength coach here, and you know we've talked to him before, and just like in coaching him, I tell him like keep it simple, man. Just talk to him like a human. You're gonna get 1 out of 25 people that want the fucking insertion point of this muscle to that.
I don't even know what you just said.
Exactly.
I have no idea what you just
Exactly.
Watch your mouth,
And,
Right?
yeah, it's like, and I know what I'm talking about, and I know what I'm thinking. But if you say it to me in that way, I'm like, how do I use that?
Yeah,
you know what I
exactly.
mean? It's crazy. Just speak normal to them.
Relate it to something they know and speak normal.
Just speak normal. That's it. You know what really helps is physics. Like physics is my physics and anatomy. That's biomechanics. People don't understand that. Biomechanics is It's measuring where your joints are throughout the space and time of your delivery. I used this example tonight with a couple of kids. It's if you were going to measure how long something was, you'd take a ruler or a measuring tape and go, zzz, right? And just okay, it's 9 inches, whatever. It's biomechanics. But it's measuring how you're moving over the course, but it's points, right? It's points over the course of your delivery. And where I think that needs to be taken is it's how that energy is built up and transferred over the course of your delivery. It's one motion. It's like if you're going to look at a domino sequence, is my favorite example of this. Here we go. It's not a visual show, but we'll do it visually anyway, right? I'll try to describe it. So if I'm going to knock down...
Just don't knock them over.
I won't.
Are you going to clip this, Jay?
So, here we go.
Jay's definitely clipping this.
I'm putting Lagavulin in front. So if I have 4 dominoes, right, and I want to knock all of them down at one time and have the energy transfer through as efficiently as possible, I'm going to hit this one as straight as possible and allow them to transfer through. 99% of pitchers come in where their dominoes are not lined up, so it doesn't matter how much force you put into the equation. It matters that you sequence them properly first, and then you can focus on how hard they're all falling down. And the issue with biomechanics is it tells you, oh, your pelvis doesn't move as fast as everyone else's. Okay, what do I do with that? Like, how do I get better from that? It doesn't move fast. I thought
you were still lining up the dominoes, and I realized you were rearranging it back to where it was.
Well, I might rearrange them just to pour myself some more. But it's how do I line these up to knock down more force?
So you're saying how to get your joints to better positions at the right time?
Literally what it is, yes. Yeah. It's literally how energy transfers more through. And it's like, and when it makes sense to you, like from when you put it in a physics perspective, like we all live on planet Earth and we're following the same rules of physics. Mm-hmm. Like that blew my mind when I came to that realization of holy shit, it's just energy moving through the same everyone is arguing like everyone's different and no one sequences the same, and that's just not true. It's just not true. We have 4 limbs. We have 2 arms and 2 legs and a torso. And everyone's built the same way, and everyone moves a little bit differently, but the sequence is
so
the
you're
same.
saying
Sequence is the
okay,
same.
But everybody's deliveries look different. So you're saying at certain points in time, they're getting to these similar positions.
Mm-hmm. Same
they're just
exact points.
They're getting there in different ways.
That's in
and our
too.
systems and how we're measuring and how we're comparing it.
Let me see that ocean one over there.
You want that one?
Yeah, I want to see.
That's your favorite one? I knew you guys were going to like that.
Listen, that one's good. Just
this one is like,
it just I'm trying to make it home tonight.
We can sleep here. We got benches.
You're right.
We're going to do this all night until we're sober.
You're right.
100%.
Fair enough.
Yes, the sequence is the same. So here's how this works. Name me 2 pitchers that you love to watch pitch.
Jordan, say one. Can it be of any time period?
Doesn't matter.
Nestor.
Paul, go.
Hold on, wait.
I like a showman.
All right, hold on. That's never happened to me before, ever. And he can't use that example because he doesn't throw hard enough.
Garrett Cole.
Okay, great. That's 99% of what people say. Nestor it's hands down. They go in the Guinness Book of World Records for my favorite answer ever to that question.
CC.
Okay, great. All right, so we got who'd you say? Cole.
Yeah.
Got Cole and CC.
Love CC.
Perfect. Okay, perfect. Give me another lefty or righty. Let's make them both.
All right, I'll give you a righty. Roger Clemens.
Perfect. Garrett Cole. The same pitcher in different generations. Mm-hmm. Agreed? Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, sort of, but yes.
Well, you know what I mean. Yeah. Comparable to Garrett Cole is the Roger Clemens of his generation.
He really is. He really is. When you think about it.
So, 2 different pitchers, correct? Would you agree?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Like you watch them pitch and you're like 2 completely different pitch packages, right? Like different. They look different. They have different timings.
One's going to throw out your head. One might not.
One's using data. One's not. Yeah, no doubt. When you watch them pitch, right? They're so obviously different, and there's so many different reasons for that, right? Genetics, where they grew up, their age at a certain point in time, what they were taught, right? Their experience, how they psychologically think about themselves. Like we can go on for forever for why they're different. The really cool part is when you break them down, elite movers do something really similar, and they move in the same sequence. And it's not exact. And this is where people would go, well, it's not, sometimes their torso moves more than their pelvis does or whatever. But I would argue because the body is built the same way for each person, although it's slightly different, and you live on planet Earth and you abide by the same physics, energy is going to transfer through the human body in more or less the same way. And it seems to be identical no matter who you are. And if it doesn't result in more force, I would argue there's something inefficient or off about your delivery and your sequence. The sequence is very, very, very similar, no matter who you are. What makes them different is the direction they rotate in, the speed that they rotate in, the timing in which they're in their delivery in which they rotate in, right? And that's your individual peak of who you are and your expression of who you are as a pitcher. So the key comes down to, can you find the sequence that works across the human body on planet Earth, but allow yourself to express who you are as an individual while at the same time maximizing the amount of energy that's going through your body? That's the key.
How do you know when you're working with a guy, this is what I need to change versus this is what I shouldn't change, because this is them expressing themselves?
Yeah, ball flight. That's where ball flight comes into play, right? What's deceptive about him? What is going to get guys out all the time? Most of the time. Don't change that. Feed that. But feed it physiologically. Feed it anatomically. That's the key.
So you're seeing ball flights you want, ball flights that are beneficial towards getting guys out, and you're saying, here's what your body's doing when the ball's doing this.
No, it's more yes, but no. But so it's more, this is what's deceptive. We need to keep this.
Right.
Let's put you in a position that would make this more deceptive and more impactful, and then let's feed the fuck out of that. That's basically what it's like. It's like what do you do really well? How do we
double down on
maximize the shit out of this?
Right.
It's basically what it comes down to.
When you say like deceptive, are you talking? So maybe you got a guy that throws 94, but when it comes out of his hand, when you're the batter, it feels like 98. Is that what you're talking about, or are you talking more?
Great question. No.
Okay.
You played in high school, right?
Yes.
You hit off the batting machine how many times?
Too many.
Infinite amount of times.
Mm-hmm.
Where was it always fucking placed?
I mean, they attempted to always place it in the strike zone.
Yeah.
Sometimes it hit a coach in the chest.
I mean the machine.
Oh.
I don't mean the ball. I mean
the machine? Was at the same distance every time, like whatever we had in our gym.
In the same lateral distance, right? Sideways.
Everything was the same.
No matter what.
Mm-hmm.
So you hit a ball gaining momentum in the same direction thousands of times.
Okay.
We try to find as different as possible from that.
Okay.
And then we try to throw that over the plate as many times as possible.
All right, that makes sense.
It makes too much sense, right? It's just like, okay, I've never hit a ball from this direction before. How do I do this?
Yeah.
Cool. Well, let's see how you guys handle this over the course of 56 games.
Yeah.
And we do that for every pitcher.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Well, and that's when you see
it's too simple.
with major league pitchers the adjustments they always have to make, because hitters are making adjustments throughout the season with the 162 games.
Mm-hmm.
So they're making adjustments, and then all of a sudden you're like, why is this pitcher so good? And then all of a sudden they have like a stretch of like 3 or 4 games.
Yes.
Hitters have figured them out a little bit.
It's very different in the big leagues than it is in college.
Do you study pro guys?
I work with pro guys.
Yeah,
So,
it's
yes.
it's like I had somebody here. I don't watch sports. I just have small talk in here. But somebody explained to me how Ian Anderson from around here had so much success early on. I know he had an injury, but then guys figured him out,
Interesting.
and then he struggled.
So actually, I worked with Ian. He came down to the lab.
Can we talk about it or no?
If I can't say something, I won't. How's that for a deal?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's fair.
Okay.
But when guys say he figured this person out, like they mean what? They've gotten used to
No,
their...
I think he got off What's amazing about Ian, so I'll say this about Ian is when I worked with Ian, I felt his desire to be great. And that was really intoxicating. Like, it was like, I really want to be good. I was good, and now I'm going through a rough patch, and I'm determined to figure this out. And that's about when, he found out he had an injury. I don't know specifically what happened with Ian, but I do know I think there are pitches thrown that for the most part a majority of hitters can adjust to once they figure it out, and I think that probably happened to him.
Right, and with just the amount of the analytics and the data teams and the people can figure things out now.
So I'll tell you this. So watch a game from the side. Okay, watch a game from the dugout. Right, picture you standing in a dugout. This is the root of baseball. And you're watching the pitcher-hitter conflict, right? That's where everything happens, is how does the ball meet the bat? That's everything in baseball. And what clicked for me was I remember watching in BP one day. Actually, I can tell you exactly where it was. It was at Maryland in our regional last year. And I remember, for whatever reason, before the game, I didn't have much to do. I remember, at the end of the season, it's just guardrailing guys, right? Just making sure they don't get off too much. And I remember studying everything I could possibly study. And I started watching BP, and I was curious as to why certain hitters were better in BP and in general versus other hitters. And I started noticing that the better hitters, if I defocused my eyes, the blur of the ball would meet the blur of the bat no matter where the blur of the ball was. Like, they would adjust the momentum of their swing to the momentum of the pitch no matter where it was. And I went, oh shit, light bulb moment, right? And I went, it's about mismatching the blur of the ball to the blur of the bat as often as humanly possible. This is the whole, you don't need data to do that, but the data polishes that idea. It defines that idea. Right. It describes what's happening.
Yeah. It's like in this field, you have researchers who do stuff in the lab and say, well, this is the outcome of that. I've never been in a fucking lab. I've never published a research article, but I've been working with, hundreds of people, a fucking week for 11 years. So I can come to the same conclusions probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can, because you have a feel for the game.
Right.
And I would advise you to watch more baseball because it's so ever adjusting. If you're going to be preparing athletes to compete, you have to know you want to develop their skills to compete against a weakness. Like, that's a huge key to being successful. Is, do you double down on their strengths? Yes. Do you throw their strengths against their weaknesses? Absolutely.
Right.
That's where the magic happens.
Right.
That's why you get a 0.8 differential in ERA. That's why you lead the country in K per 9 and in WHIP and in lowest walk rates.
I was looking all that up earlier.
All that shit. Like, it's
literally first in everything.
There's a philosophy that says, how good can we make our guys numerically? And how often can we throw that against the weakness of a hitter? So
doubling down on the strengths against the weaknesses of the opponent.
Yes, it's not one or the other. Yeah. Yes, you plug both holes, and they have to be very malleable to do that, right? They have to trust you. Mm-hmm. They have to basically be the other side of a joystick for a little while. But if they're taught in a way where they know their own shit, like they know themselves so well and they can make their own adjustments, and then they can go, no, I know better in this situation, or I know how to handle myself psychologically,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or, I just threw 2 bad pitches in a row, step off and reset. I understand the momentum of the game, and I trust my pitching coach that he's done all the work behind the scenes with his whole team of people, and all I have to do is be a fucking badass and throw the ball over the plate in the place that they tell me to. Success. That's where that comes from.
How much does the way you communicate and speak and cue somebody matter to not make them become more rigid when you're trying to make a change?
Good question.
Because I feel like that's in your presentation of what you want them to do. That's how you speak to them to make them not have your cue, make them more rigid.
So buy-in. You're talking about buy-in.
I'm talking about buy-in, and just motor learning.
Just making them not too...
Well, motor learning's
Make them not too mechanical. Almost.
Yeah.
Them not too mechanical.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. That's what you're trying to get at.
Yeah, I'm saying how do you speak to...
like in here, for instance, like if I see somebody and I've cued them and I'm like, dude, you're just not moving. Like, right? I'm just like, be more athletic, and then instantly, I'll see a difference. I'm like, just be more athletic, and then they're like, okay, and then I see a difference. So like, in that sense, I guess.
Yeah. All this blends together, so this is great. So I'm figuring out a way to blend this all together because it truly does. So I would say, so let's start with motor neurology and how this kind of works. Mm-hmm. Remember riding a bike when you were a little kid? Mm-hmm. Remember the day you learned to ride a bike? Any of you?
Not at all.
Really?
A little bit.
Okay. How'd it go?
Well, the day with training wheels or the day without training wheels?
All of it.
Well, the day with training wheels didn't go terribly. The day without training wheels did not go great to start.
And then what happened?
I fell on my ass. Well,
and then what happened?
And then eventually I did it.
Yeah.
And did it, and then I got it.
How did you get it? You remember the feeling of getting it?
I remember the feeling. I don't remember how I got it.
What was the feeling of getting it?
I'm fucking amazing.
Yeah. Did you think about how it happened? Or you were just like, this just happened?
I feel like this just happened.
That's motor neurology. And we teach pitchers the same way, but the difference is on a bike, it's necessary to learn to ride a bike because you're constrained by the bike, right? So you have to pedal, you have to stabilize, you have to steer. And that's it, because the bike forces you to do that by how it's built. So you're repeating consistent reps in the way that's forcing you to ride a bike. And your brain goes, okay, we've done this enough. Like, I got it from here. We're good. And then everyone learns to ride a bike and never has to relearn it. Like, I just rode a bike for the first time in like 10 years, like 3 days ago. Like a decade. And I literally, giving this example, countless times. Right? Like in my head going like, this is unbelievable. Like, I don't have to think about this at all. Your brain just knows how to do it because it's subconscious and it's a pattern and it's installed in your brain. And that feeling of, okay, I've got this now, is your subconscious and your wiring going, it's installing a new program and it's done and you don't have to think about it. But it's as a result of
being
repetitions.
Conscious, right? And being conscious for a while.
Well,
or no.
Yeah, you have to think about it for sure. But here's the trick to this. Is in terms of being conscious, is if you can make it subconscious, it doesn't matter whether you're thinking about it or not.
You're still like building those synapses in the neuron.
Yes. Pitching is too complex, meaning there's so many moving parts, there's not enough constraints, you're moving down a mound, you can move however you want to all the time, and that's how bad habits are made in almost everybody. So we constrain guys. And here's what I mean. So let's say, for example, so a common thing that we do is shorten guys' strides. Done it a million times. It's like there's an overstriding epidemic, and it goes back to that frame that I told you guys about, where their trunk is back rotationally when they block. Mm-hmm. Right, that's the key from everything. And so many times when guys overstride, every time a guy overstrides, I would argue, they open up a window for their trunk to leak rotationally. So it moves rotationally before they're blocking, which is like the key of like everything, right? So as soon as I see that, I go, let's shave that back. Let's shave the stride back.
So their trunk's moving towards home plate before they're blocking, or is that
their trunk is turning towards home plate before they're blocking?
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
So it starts to turn beforehand. If you can land and block everything before the trunk starts to turn, you're golden. Golden.
Is that like hip shoulder separation?
That's where hip shoulder separation comes from. So I don't teach hip shoulder separation. We teach getting down on time before you rotate so that hip shoulder separation happens underneath you. So quickly, here's how this kind of works. Like I think maybe this is not true, but I think a lot of people think about hip shoulder separation like, can I turn my hips before the rest of my body?
Yeah. Which is
almost impossible to do. Like, it happens by you landing closed. And landing closed, the femur comes back into the body and the pelvis goes and just shoots forward. Like it's like you being in a car and slamming on the brakes and your body flying forward. It's momentum and deceleration. And if that happens when the shoulders are closed, the pelvis goes underneath the rest of the body, hip-shoulder separation. Bang. And all of a sudden an elastic effect happens, and you wind the trunk, and then you unwind the trunk, and it goes straight into the arm, and it's fucking magic. It's absolutely magic. We had Mike Massey, the kid that he came in the LSU game, threw in extra innings. He transferred from Tulane. I'm going to get the stats wrong, so don't quote me on the stats, but he basically he doubled his amount of strikeouts in half the amount of innings.
Wow.
And the velocity story behind him is, we took a bunch of data, we took a look at a lot of video, and I felt like he moved his body exceptionally well, but I felt like because he overstrided, the work that his body did to create the rotational effect that was really good was lost, right? So he turned everything before he landed. And so I was like, dude, let's just shorten his stride. Like, let's just shave everything back. Like, let's just catch the rotation that he's creating and see what happens. And his first outing, he was 99.2 to that point. It's like 89.92, something in that range. His very first outing, which was like 10 days later after that decision, he was 94-96.
Jesus.
Absolutely, immediately. Like, you can't get velocity any faster than that. And it's just because we caught the energy that his body was already creating and we sent it back into his arm.
So it's all about the timing of that step.
There was no force production. There was no heavy lifting. It was just like, you already do so much so well. Let's just shave you back and catch all that shit. Mm-hmm. And obviously, like, the stats don't just like come from that. There's a lot of pitching development and mindset and psychological, all that shit. There were specific things that we tweaked in his ball flight data or found in his ball flight data that said if he throws this over the plate in this area, he's going to be unhittable. Mm-hmm. So you combine that psychological effect with getting more energy into his arm, and you've really got something. But the way that we did that, to bring it back to the bike analogy, is if I were to say, hey, I want to shorten your stride, right? Let's say it's the same situation, right? And I go, like, let's shorten your stride by 3 inches. I think if you shorten your stride by 3 inches, you can get to 94, 96 really easily. Same situation. Then I just told you that, and you just tried it. You'd never do it. It'd be like 6 inches shorter, 3 inches shorter, 5 inches shorter, no inches shorter. Right? And you'd be like, every rep would be completely fucking different than the last one. And you wouldn't create the consistency in repetitions to actually make a neurological change in how you're moving. But if I measure out where I want you to be, and I throw a PVC pipe or a broomstick in front of you at that length where you have no choice but to land in front of it or break your ankle.
Right.
You're going to land in front of that fucking thing.
You're definitely going to land in front of it.
Every single time. And that's why in 10 days he goes from 90.92 to 94.96. Because, and then it sticks, and that's the key, is it sticks. Like, you forget about riding the bike, and you just start racing your buddies around the neighborhood on your bike because you know how to ride it.
Is it easier to learn when you use an external cue like that, like with the pipe, than saying internal cues?
There's no thinking.
Right. Well, and I was thinking, like, when he said I don't remember exactly what you said, but it reminded me of, like, when we have somebody deadlifting and we're giving them 100 different cues, and then eventually, subconsciously, like, they brace their core without us having to tell them. They have their shoulders back without having to tell them. They have everything engaged, and now all of a sudden they went from being a 135 deadlifter to a 275 deadlifter in 2 weeks, and you're like, you did not gain 140 pounds on your deadlift.
How did that happen?
You just learned how to, like, position your body more efficiently and put force into the ground better.
But the weight is the constraint.
Correct.
Because if you do it wrong, you hurt yourself.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So but it comes with the education first. It comes with how should I do this?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
What does it look like? And then you're going, like, what does it feel like? And then combining those two together. That's where the magic really happens.
Like, when you were talking about it, it was like I was thinking of, like, okay, in here, how do I? Because the same thing I do with a kid in here is if I'm sitting there having a hard time getting a kid to feel something the way or do something the way I want them to do it, I try to relate it back to something they know.
Yeah.
And that's, for me, it's like, okay, how can I relate this to weightlifting?
Or you're going to use a constraint, like we may squat into a box, use mats to elevated deadlift. Like you're going to use an external constraint.
It's a perfect constraint. Like, hey, go to this height. Go to when you feel this on your grass and then come back. Like, that's perfect. And what happens, this is the magic, is what happens is they feel that. Like you tell them to do that, and they're like, okay, I'll just like follow directions, right? And then they feel it, and they go,
exactly what happened.
Shit.
That exact, oh yeah, all right. And then they're like, oh shit.
Yeah,
like that exact thing happens
and then you go, hey, like do that again. Feel that again. Chase that feeling. The best part of motor neurology is when you connect their subjectivity to their objectivity. Blend those things together. That's where magic happens.
I feel like you'll hear me, like I'll lock in my head, I'm locking in somebody, I'm solidifying that learning when I'll say, okay, say I cue them on their first set of deadlifts, maybe I add mats, I give them a little checklist to do, whether it's like, okay, you're going to nod your chin down, you're going to brace your core, you're going to squeeze behind your armpits, and then they do their set. Then their next set, I'll say, hey, why don't you get set up in position? You tell me when you feel like you're in the right spot.
All right, I have a question for you guys. So where do you guys produce the most force? Where do you focus on producing the most force with guys?
In terms of exercise selection or in terms of
pitching?
The most force.
The muscles, how do you train guys to produce the most force? Like, what's your philosophy?
That's a better question for Mike.
Learning to put force into the ground.
Yes.
Learning to put force into the ground, because in pitching, it's about you. Like you said, that lead leg has to get down. The trail hip has to tell it what to do, and they got to be able to accept force and generate force.
I think that's any sport, though. I don't think it's just baseball.
But let's just say
we live on planet Earth. That's my point.
Right.
Like when I think of lacrosse,
it's
like
the same
thing.
So it's force into the ground. You can do that through an external cue of like putting force down into the floor, and then doing that with like, are you feeling your glute? Are you feeling your hamstring work? And then, it's just choosing your exercises that correlate to pitching. So, like, if we want to go heavier in load, we'll do a trap bar deadlift. If we want to be single leg, we'll do a reverse lunge. We'll do a Bulgarian split squat. If we want to be frontal plane, we'll do a lateral lunge. But
what makes you want to be one way or over another?
I think you're
training athletes the same.
Saying they're the same?
Are you training them the same?
No. It's going to depend on, I think we want to build a certain degree of bilateral strength, because you're going to have heavier loads. It's going to force more adaptations in terms of mass.
Is it lateral linearly or rotationally?
I think we're starting sagittal plane. We're learning to control the core and the pelvis in the sagittal plane first. And then once I know that you have sagittal plane control, then we can move frontal plane, and then we can move transverse plane after that. Which may mean like you're working all of them at once. But like my priority, if you can't control extension in the sagittal plane, you're probably going to have a hard time in the frontal plane and a hard time in the transverse plane. Do you agree?
Never received that kind of energy before.
Yeah, you're leaking because you're extending. You're not. You don't have your pelvis underneath you.
I want people to think about pitching like a whip, whereas the bottom of the whip provides the power, and the top of the whip provides the deceleration. So can I provide rotational power from the bottom? And can my arm receive that energy and safely transfer it without me hurting myself? That's where baseball needs to head. In general. And I think it is. You know what's interesting is like there's a group evolution happening. You see, like, how many? You watch a big league game, and I know you don't watch baseball. Do you watch baseball?
I watch a lot of baseball.
Okay, great. How many times do you see a guy coming mid to high 90s out of the bullpen?
It's
fucking every time.
Every guy in the Yankees bullpen throws 90.
It's
95
every time.
Or higher.
It's every time. And
I would hate to be a hitter.
They were clearly so information. Yeah, I'm in a position where information, like I know information's at a forefront. Like it's palpable. Like you can get any information you desire if you ask. But people, I don't know that it's information that's causing the evolution. Like people are taking the experience that they feel around them. Like everyone has to throw hard to get at a high level Division I baseball, and then you have to throw hard to get it into professional baseball or drafted or whatever. And they just learn how to do it like subconsciously by watching everyone else do it. It's so fucking interesting to me.
That's how I have a younger brother who's 17, and that's how he learned how to hit and play baseball.
Yeah.
He would just watch because he's left-handed.
Yeah.
Nobody else is
But
left-handed.
that's how we used to do it.
Yeah.
We didn't
would
have
just-
lessons. We didn't have.
That's how people learn.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Like all right, so you have a little girl right
Yeah, she
now,
mimics.
Right? She mimics, man. You open your mouth and you fucking take a bite of the baby food, which is
stick
fucking goddamn terrible.
I stick my tongue out. I laugh.
And she does the same shit, right? And she copies you. I think that's happening on a group level in baseball as a whole. There's Steven Kotler's really good. If you want to read a good book, Steven Kotler, I think it's called Catching Fire. And it's about flow state. It's about group flow state. It's about group evolution. And he talks about how he covered snowboarders, I think, as a media person, and then he watched them, and then he took like a break and he watched them get better like 4 years later, and it's like, what the hell is happening? And it's because each one keeps upping the other one, and they keep following each, and that's what's happening in pitching. But it's happening in velocity, and I find that really interesting. And I think there's a ceiling on that, and B, I think there's something to learn from what's happening that can be teachable for the people that aren't just naturally athletically gifted enough to actually
to just
hit that level.
throw 95
Okay.
because
you're
they
saying the average velocity of a 16, 17, 18-year-old is higher now than it was when you played.
That's
and the
probably,
generation
I'm
before?
saying big leagues and college, but that's probably true.
Yeah.
That's
Higher.
probably true.
Well, because
How could it not be?
it's got to be.
I'm not one of my favorite parts of my job is I don't have to recruit. I love it. Like, I just don't have to recruit, right? And nor do I want to. However, in terms of like when we have a recruit or when we have a transfer portal piece that we think could fit into what we're doing, I look at like, how could we make this guy better, right? Like it's basically my whole job is like, what would push this guy in the direction of being the best version of himself. And I think a lot of it comes down to velocity. It does.
What's the potential for velocity?
Yeah, it's the energy. Like we're going to talk deception. So everything's deception, right? All the time. How does this pitch fool a hitter into thinking he can hit it, but he can't? That's deception in a nutshell. Velocity is you shave the amount of time that he has to make a decision whether he can hit it or not.
Yeah.
Which sounds
That's
terrible.
the definition of deception. Like,
Definition of
you
me
have
not
to
wanting to be a hitter.
you have to throw harder to be deceptive. You do.
Yeah.
No, you don't have to, but it's a really good way to do so.
Yes.
I guess.
Like, could Greg Maddux, Jamie Moyer play in today's MLB or no? They would get hit around.
Jamie Moyer probably
No,
would get hit around.
Well, they would. Okay. Interesting. I don't know that they would be hit around, but they would be forced to throw their shit in the zone more often because the strike zone's different. And that changes everything.
Yeah.
That changes everything.
Well, Jamie Moyer has given up the most home runs ever, so I think he would probably still get
Right.
rocked.
Listen,
How old was he?
Dude, he was like
52?
75 years old when he retired. Like, he's like 122.
He's my grandpa.
Yeah. Like,
Jamie Moyer.
he's my grandfather's grandpa. Like,
Yeah, listen, I'm just thinking of my 90s guys who like didn't throw hard and had long careers and had all-star
yeah.
careers.
I mean,
If they're-
Andy Pettit's another one, you know?
But hitters aren't armed with it's information.
Mm-hmm.
What's working at Wake? Culture, information. Those two things. It's
Well,
how the team jives with each other, and it's how well we're using information.
The deception thing that you're talking about too is like part of the reason why, you know, going back to the Guinness Book of World Records answer, Nestor Cortez,
From the beginning.
he is deceiving in different ways than other guys are.
Yes.
Right? Because he doesn't throw 99.
Like, Jay, what's the average fastball now in the MLB versus
It's got to be 90.
First, take a guess. What do you got?
Do you know it,
Average
Mike?
now or
I think I do, but I'm not
average
positive.
right now?
Yeah. Versus when? What year?
96.
Okay.
Average right now, I would say
Anywhere between 94 and 2002.
Yeah.
I was gonna say right now it's got to be the average 96, and then
It's not that high.
I was gonna go 95.
It feels that high,
I was
but
gonna
it's
go
not that
95,
high.
but that's because every guy in the Yankees bullpen throws 99.
You know what's interesting is part of this is like how they tag pitches, and the computer automatically, if they throw a pitch, Like I watched Clevenger pitch, and he's like,
Josh Johnson throws an 85-mile-an-hour cutter. He doesn't throw a fucking cutter.
and that waters down the fucking.
Yeah.
It does.
So
That's
I would
true.
okay. So
That's
then
true.
95, 94, and then in the 96 it was probably like 91.
You got to go point though.
Oh fuck! Yeah, you got to.
Yeah, you have to. 'Cause that's the way it is.
95.3.
Okay, good guess.
Right now.
Yeah. What do you got?
I'm not a good guess. Yeah, I would say in the mid 90s somewhere. I'll say 96.2.
Jordan, what do you got?
Well, I can't guess since I'm looking at the
Oh.
numbers.
All right, I'm gonna say 94.3. That's my guess.
Jay?
93.9.
Oh wow.
Ooh, wow.
Okay. All
93.9.
right. $1, Bob. $1.
So now, are you gonna look at 96 right now? Look at 98 because that's the greatest year of the Yankees.
I will look.
Yeah, let's look at 96.
Yeah,
That's good.
93.9. That's from Statcast, which obviously wasn't around. So we'll
Yeah.
just see what they have.
How long do you guys go? Because I could do this all night.
I don't know. We just go until it kind of
Perfect.
feels like it's done
Perfect,
with.
because we could just do this for forever.
Yeah, we're good. You guys look this up. I'm going to... Does you also have to
I
pee?
gotta pee.
Let's do a
Alright,
pee
let's
break.
do a pee
Alright,
break.
Pee break really
break.
quick. Jordan, look up the
Halftime.
stat. Yeah, we're back.
We're gonna go till fucking midnight right now.
Go till whenevs. Jay, you couldn't find the 90s fastball information.
No, that
It-
was a rabbit hole
96?
of.
You couldn't find a 96 average fastball.
Buddy,
You know why? Because they didn't have it.
Yeah, they started going into details about where the pitch speed is measured out of the pitcher's hand versus 50
God.
feet away versus where it crosses the plate. And
What does that say?
I stopped. I'm done. Don't ask me any more questions.
Unless it's about you know,
I might have something here.
NHL hits. Or,
Yeah.
This isn't real. This isn't a real website.
Is that misinformation? Bro?
I was like, I don't want it. I don't want that
Yeah.
one.
Okay, so we just stay up with pitching.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. I mean, prevalent injury is a UCL tear or
Ooh,
Tommy
yeah.
John, right?
Big topic.
Big
Yeah.
topic. What are you seeing mechanically? Is there a common thing mechanically where you see it and you go, this load on your UCL
Yeah.
is higher than it should be?
You know, I thought so. I'm not so sure. No, I'm not so sure. So we're gonna use Teddy McGraw.
I mean, I
as
know
an
he
example.
was your big guy this year, and I
Yeah.
mean, I've seen so many over the years.
So, all right, so let's talk about Teddy for a minute before we hop into UCL. So, well, it's going to bridge into UCLs. Teddy is the single best pitcher I've ever watched. Hands down. Hands down. I watched Paul Skeens pitch from the dugout. And Paul Skeens felt like perfect mechanics and in terms of power. And he also felt like, and this is the point, he also felt like his mass was enough to handle the amount of force that he was generating.
Right.
And Teddy's like a thick dude. He's one of those rotational athletes I talked about before, where he was like he's a multi-sport athlete. But his rotational ability is like superb. He's a guaranteed big leaguer if he stays healthy past this. His ability is exceptional. Like top 1% of the human race. And it sheds so much light on what's happening, or maybe what's not happening. And this is more interesting. All of these are ideas, so don't take these for quote.
They're not cemented into time.
There's the scientific reasoning behind them is evolving. Just perfectly said. I think. How many shoulder injuries do you hear about anymore?
Shoulder?
Not a ton.
Not very many.
No.
The only one I can think of off the top of my head.
Yeah, knock on wood.
Plays for the
we
goddamn
haven't-
Yankees.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
Yeah,
separate.
but you okay? In here, and since I've been doing this since 2011, you barely see any rotator cuffs.
Why is that?
You don't see labrums that often, unless
Why?
it's traumatic from diving.
Yeah, I was gonna say the only time we see a shoulder is like
Yeah.
a diving injury.
Why?
It's a good question.
Wait. Really?
For what?
Diving?
Well, I'm saying with a labrum, you see like an outstretched arm,
Diving,
into
like
a base,
swimming?
diving.
No,
like diving, for a
it-
play.
like diving for a play.
Like you see a traumatic labrum.
Like a traumatic injury, not like an overuse injury.
Overuse on that.
My bad. Okay.
Not,
But-
not,
I was like in Lake George. I'm in Lake George mode.
not swimming and diving, okay?
That's hilarious.
All right.
Okay. Yeah. Diving,
But what?
diving back to first base.
Right,
Yeah.
diving for a
diving
ball
for a
in the
ball in the
outfield.
outfield.
No doubt.
But why you don't see shoulders and you see
As
it
a
down
pitcher.
to
They're talking pitching.
Because I feel like we used to see
down
shoulders all the
elbow,
time.
pitching
All the time. Why?
Yeah.
Why do they not happen all that often anymore?
I don't know. Is a lot of time spent around the shoulder doing arm care there,
Yeah.
and we're neglecting the tissues around the
Yeah.
elbow?
What is every
We
single,
talked about this recently, actually.
What does every player have in their bag?
Yeah, J-band.
All of them.
And we're doing a lot of external rotations, abductions, ERs.
We have figured out what causes the
season-wise.
shoulder to decelerate. We
Right.
figured out the job of the shoulder is after release to slow the arm down so that it doesn't hurt itself.
Yeah, and we
And we
train
train that.
We train the cuff to do that job.
What do we do for the elbow?
We don't do that much.
Jack fucking shit.
Right.
We do jack fucking shit for it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the problem. Now, you could look at it two ways. You could look at it like, well, guys are just throwing too hard. They're throwing so hard, right? Like we're putting so much energy into their arms. And I think that's honestly what happened with Teddy McGraw.
But the tissue.
I don't know that, but
the tissues have to be able to tolerate those forces. Yeah.
they have to. Now, the problem with the tissue is the ligament. So how do you grow a ligament, right?
Correct.
Yeah,
I
don't
mean,
know.
yeah, I'm not.
It's
but I'm
different with the
just-
shoulder because it's all muscle.
Correct.
The ligament's different in that it's bone to bone. Now, what's interesting about the ligament, I think, again, all theoretical. I'm just talking on experience and what I think, but the ligament is surrounded by muscle. Have you guys you heard of FlexPro grip? You ever seen that?
It sounds very familiar.
Look it up, because you're not. It's interesting. what
It
looks
sounds
like.
very familiar.
It is so basically what it goes over your hand, and they put loopholes around your fingers with
This thing
yes,
looks
an Iron Man
like a
hand.
robotic hand.
Yeah. Yep.
Yep.
And they put so you put your fingers in those holes, and it's attached to carbon fiber poles on each finger. So each finger is the hole attached to a carbon fiber pole. And what it does is it connects to your phone, and it shows you the rate of force that you're providing on each finger as it moves.
This is what it looks like, Mike.
And each finger is like it's attached to its own muscle. I find this fascinating.
Yes.
This is the first company of its kind to do something like this, and we just invested in them. We're putting them on each pitcher, and their whole business model is two things. One, can we insulate the forearm? Our pitching coach used that word, and I love that word because it's like how can we build a layer of protection within the forearm to protect the UCL from being torn, and two, they train the rate of force development. So it's actually they've taken this farther than strengthening the forearm. They've taken it to how do we make pitches better. So like let's say you're an exceptional supinator, right? You throw great breaking balls like all the time, great cutters, whatever, sliders, whatever, and you suck at pronation. One of their theories is your muscles are not strong enough to allow you to pronate properly, and I find that fascinating. And the reverse of course. But we've begun putting our guys on this device, and spin rates up, breaking balls better, and the feedback from the guys is this feels really good.
Yeah.
And this it's just not talked about. It's just like
It's not. Because we had this conversation today, Paul, or earlier this week, which I like that we're talking about it. Okay, in our programs, we will program on certain days just to make sure we get all of this work in. You're going to have certain days that are going to be more scapula-based exercises, so mid-trap, low-trap. You're going to have days that are going to be more cuff, so decelerating, external rotation, internal rotation. And, yeah, we brought up the other day, that, like, why don't we add in forearm priorities?
This actually started because of a lacrosse player.
Because a lacrosse player
what happened?
They just needed to strengthen their forearms and stuff, and I was like, why don't we
To hold down on the stick?
because with the like there's a lot of rotation through the wrist.
They're cradling all the
Cradling.
time.
Yeah, that's the word.
That's
Cradling.
so fascinating.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
you don't
like,
have the valve.
wow.
You don't have the
You
valve
don't
stress
realize
like you do
it
when you pitch,
until-
but
The difference is it's one It's
And
one
then it's
movement
the-
by all the forearm
and
muscles.
then it's also this motion.
yeah. In baseball, it's each individual finger.
Right.
We're
So
very
like
fascinating.
it started with that, but then it transitioned into us like talking more about baseball.
Like, yeah, because why don't you have an ulnar and radial deviation day? Why don't you have pronation and supination?
That's
It like
what they
just
do.
makes
That's
makes
what they're
sense.
Which is
In fact, I would highly suggest you guys keep a couple here.
Yeah.
Because it's more weight room than it is pitching. To be
Just
honest
to-
with you,
to plug
It's just
into a weight room
smaller
program.
muscles. It's just tinier muscles. But I think
this also says each protocol will take roughly 5 to 12 minutes to complete.
it says that's true. That's as
Which
quick
is like
as it
nothing. Which is literally
It's
fucking
nothing. And you know, I've tried it. I've done it a lot. It feels like I'm calling on muscles that have not been used. That's what it feels like. Mm-hmm. If that's not telling,
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. Like,
Yeah, it's funny how that got missed, or like
totally missed.
Do you know Mike Reinold? He's a Boston guy. He was the Sox PTAT. He owns this gym, Champion Performance and Physical Therapy in Boston.
But
I worked with him for a little bit, and he's been like on all of this for years, I feel like. But it like makes sense. Like, if you pull your hamstring, you're gonna work your hamstrings. If you tore your labrum in your shoulder, you're gonna work your cuff to strengthen around it. Like, why not the tissues around
Yeah.
your elbow? How did
we
that
just
get
don't
missed?
touch them. We just totally miss them.
Right.
I think that's where.
I think it's sometimes too. It's you get overly cautious about the elbow, so then it's an avoidance of it too.
Yes.
Like you avoid it. You avoid doing a Zotman curl, a dumbbell hammer curl that is going to strengthen the elbow.
Strengthen the fuck
And
out of it. man.
you're like, I'm going to avoid that because they're doing so much throwing. Well, maybe they need to do some of it. It's just how do we implement it and get
Yeah.
it so it's not going to
What's
be
hard in the
overuse.
weight room, Mike, is when guys are. It depends how much they're playing, but guys that are in season for so long, they play spring ball, they play summer ball, they play fall ball. So they're
It's a lot of throws.
It's a lot of throws, so you have to take those variables into consideration in the
Yeah.
weight room because you have to understand the wear and tear and the competitive movements on their body and not feed into that.
And how honest are those kids being about what they're doing outside?
That's
of
what's
the
hard. That's what's
you
hard
know?
now is all of the external variables with single sport and like baseball playing.
I flat out will ask kids when I ask them something. I'm like, "You lying to me?" I'm like, "Would you lie to me right now?" And like some kids will be like, "Oh, fuck."
That's a good question because kids don't mean to lie; they
No.
mean to protect.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you're like, "Hey, it's safe here. You can tell me."
Yeah.
And they tell you.
Because like I want to know. I want to know like is something bothering you? Because if
Yeah.
it is, I want to be able to make it so it doesn't bother.
Yeah.
You know.
So the elbow's really interesting. Here's what I think is happening with the elbow. I'll go on a public scale and on a private scale. So public scale, the public has gone. Tommy John surgery is at an all-time high. Ligaments are being torn left and right. It's true. But the fix is just like, hey, just throw less. That's the fix. Throw less. We're going to put a cap on how many pitches you can throw as a toddler, as a teenager, how many days you can throw in a row. And all of that I think is really well intended. I think it's really like, hey, let's protect our young athletes from having a serious injury. And I'll add to this, like I watched 3 guys go through this in the last year, and it's serious and it's scary. I watched it happen in real time. I watched them throw pitches and go, oh shit, something's wrong on one pitch. And it's not fun. It's horrible. Like, and then on the flip side, I've watched guys in tears going, you know, I've worked for this chance to have this season with my team, and now I don't get to have this because my body did not hold up. And that's a horrible thing. Like, that's just it's a very serious thing, and it scares me. But I've also watched the public go, well, we know this is a problem. Let's just put a Band-Aid on it in the form of let's have them throw less. And I don't think that's the case. I don't think it's a full story. I think it's half the story. And I also don't think that, and this is a bigger discussion, but I don't think the medical side is bridged with the baseball side. And it might be because of language, and it might be because of knowledge.
You're saying orthopedics?
Yeah. Like I've watched a lot of throwing programs back from TJ. catered kids back from TJ, alongside with our athletic trainers who are just phenomenal, just phenomenal, like so good. And I've thought to myself, this is an educated guess. This doesn't quite make sense, and the answer is it doesn't quite make sense because we don't bridge the gap between health and baseball as well as we could.
Mm-hmm.
We assume and we plug, and we don't actually do the research to say, hey, this would make a huge difference if we structured it this way. This is the amount of throwing they should do, right? Based on evidence, we go, well, this is what I think should happen, so we program that. And actually, a big project of mine is figuring out that how can we structure things. Really interesting. A lot of tech involved.
Like the Tommy John coming back from that, like the throwing program, that kind of stuff.
Well, A, what causes it?
Mm-hmm.
B, how do we climb back from it?
Yeah.
And the volume is a really big discussion because it's like, how much should I throw in a certain amount of time? Like, how much can my elbow handle? But we also don't strengthen the elbow, which I find really interesting. So I'll tell you guys our solution. Like, our solution is we found a tech company called Nextiles. Heard of it?
Mm-mm.
Okay. So Nextiles they make compression fabric with the technology to connect to your phone woven onto the elbow in the compression sleeve. Amazing.
So it's not like you have to put something into the sleeve to like.
There's a battery pack,
Mm-hmm.
but the copper wiring, I might get this wrong, but the copper wiring is woven into the fabric of the compression sleeve, and it reads everything that's happening in the elbow in real time. Whereas, like, and I get this question a lot, like, what is the difference between that and Modus? And Modus is a chip that gives you, here you go, this is what you should pay attention to.
Right.
And the Nextile sleeve reads the raw data of every throw that you make, as long as you wear it.
interpret that data.
And then we go, okay, but what's really important from this abundance of information? And I love that.
But there's so many variables in return from TJ. Can I have an idea as to why this tissue took on too much load and couldn't withstand it?
Yep.
Was it mechanical? Was it strength? Was it mobility? It's probably a mixture of all those things.
It's all of it.
It's all of it, and then it's like, okay, we have the surgery. Now it's just going to take X amount of time for that tissue to heal, for that tendon or whatever they put in to become a ligament.
Yeah, when he was talking about the throwing programs too, like I think of when we have somebody come from an Ahmad program,
right,
and the difference in that
Chris
from,
Ahmad?
from somebody else that comes from just a random person or some other, maybe somebody from up here, whatever. It's a drastic difference.
Just
in
the detail of the
detail and the little things that they have to do.
All right, so let's take this example. We'll use both of us. You guys have a science to how you're strengthening guys. Agree?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Someone who is less experienced, less intentional, is going to do a better or worse job. More than likely.
More than likely a worse job.
A worse job, right? My position, same exact thing. Someone who doesn't know the information, someone who thinks old school, like, I've been passed this down, this is what you should do.
Mm-hmm.
My realization is when I realize that doctors are the same way, where they go, I've done X amount of surgeries, I've followed up with X amount of clients, this is what works, this is my process. They're all on a spectrum of how good to bad they are.
For sure. I saw that because I worked in Boston for 6.5 years.
I love that city, by the way.
Great. I love it. If we didn't want
Everything
to
about the sports teams.
Listen, we lived by Fenway. We would walk to Fenway.
Are you a Giants fan too?
No, I'm not. Fuck the Giants.
It's the Cowboys.
I'm a Cowboys fan.
What?
Who is this guy?
Who are you, man?
I'm a
unacceptable.
I'm a 90s fan, bro.
But Okay, there was a way better.
I like that. You're a fan of a decade.
I'm a '90s fan, man.
You're Bulls, you're
Cowboys, Bulls, Yankees.
Yeah, that
I'm
is
a huge Matchbox 20 guy, regardless of what team I root for.
My sister's definitely a Matchbox
The
20.
Goo Goo Dolls, the
Loves
fucking,
Rob Thomas.
I love it.
Yeah, what's the Rob Thomas and Santana song? Jay played, I love
smooth.
that song.
Smooth.
I fucking love that
It's
song.
a great song. It's funny because I was literally at my family barbecue talking about the song.
This is such
Carlos
a
Santana.
shreds.
Mike, get this. My stepdad's first concert he ever went to.
Santana?
Carlos Santana. 90s and early 2000s is my favorite.
Like music?
Yeah.
We're both hip hop guys.
Yep. Hip hop mostly, but I listen to everything.
So
Artists?
okay, if we go like now, just people will judge me, and Jordan will say I'm a little fucker, but like I'll do Drake. We do the new Young Thug
Can
album.
you go Search and Destroy for me?
Oh, I don't like Search and Destroy.
What are you talking about?
No,
Nick,
Do it for me. Do it for me.
there's a kid in here who loves this song. You might have to cut out what I just said because I said his first name.
but we're a lot of '90s rap.
Wait, why don't you like it? We're going to talk about this. Why don't you like
I like petty Drake with bars, so I like his like timestamp songs, or like.
I like Tuscan Leather.
So you don't
Drake.
like this
Tuscan Leather
because
Drake.
it's too popular.
Yeah, I guess it's just like it's not my favorite.
My guy's J. Cole.
Search and Rescue?
Yeah.
Search and Destroy.
Search and Rescue. Search and
No,
Rescue.
Search and Rescue.
Yeah,
It
you're
is,
right.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't like
He's-
things that are trendy because
fair.
people
fair.
just buy into
That's why
things that other people like.
It's also
like,
part of the reason why I'm a huge J. Cole fan.
Okay.
I'm a huge J. Cole fan.
Okay.
Because he's not trendy.
Yes, because
He's just like, I'm going to do what the fuck I want.
Drake fits into no genre.
Nope.
He fits into many genres, but no genres at the same exact fucking time.
Which is
I
great.
love that.
Yeah.
I do love that about him.
And that song, so also, and it's very biased, but every I.O. that song would play, and I'm throwing with our closer, Cam Manassi, every time that song plays, and he throws fucking 100.
You're like, this is fucking sweet.
And I'm like, I need to lock in, and that song locks me the fuck in.
But this is why music is so good, though, because we tie it to moments and
You
we
tie
tie
it
it
to
to
every moment
emotion.
in
That's
life.
the point. That's the point. Favorite artist? Go.
Favorite
Ever or
artist?
Or right
Period.
now.
Period.
Fuck.
Oh, both. Let's go both. Ever and right now. That's a great.
Paul,
That's a
go
great.
first, and I'm
addition.
going to give you two.
Favorite artist ever? Jay-Z. I got to go with Jay-Z.
Oh, really good.
I gotta go
Why?
with Jay-Z.
You gotta go with why.
Because I could throw on Reasonable Doubt. I could throw on any Blueprint. I could throw on the Black Album. I could throw on. I just name an album and I can listen to it front to back.
Because he's a goddamn artist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right now, J. Cole.
Cool. Yeah.
I'm
He's
such
modern
a
Jay-Z.
Right. He's the modern Jay. He's the Garrett Cole to Roger Clemens of this conversation.
My thing that I've always said is Drake is
George laughed.
Drake is the modern Lil Wayne, J. Cole's the modern Jay-Z, and Kendrick's the modern Nas.
That's so good. So good.
So that's how I've divvied up those three.
What do you got, Mike?
I'm such a hip hop fan. I'll do anything really except for country, but I would say Lil Wayne. Like when I was
Lil Wayne's great.
really into it, this was
That's what I was debating.
This was like the blog era where like this guy was putting out so many songs, and I was kind of just
Well, how did you guys have this idea?
the podcast. Here, Jordy,
How did you guys come
pause
up with this?
So okay.
Because no one to my knowledge, no one in the Capital District does this.
No one does this. So when I was in high school, our dad turned us on to Howard Stern. And probably
State
from,
champs.
probably
Back to back.
probably from the time I was
09.
probably from the time I was 16 through recently, every commute I did in Boston, I lived in Chatham when we first opened here, so I had a 45-minute commute.
Yep.
I would do Howard, and then I flipped over to Rogan and other podcasts later on.
I feel all of that in your style.
And I mean, yeah, those guys were, I guess, influential in how we do this and set up
Yeah.
this and handle it.
No doubt.
And I think I would just always think, like, I have so many cool conversations every day with people
Yeah.
with different occupations and backgrounds and lives and stories. And I have these conversations for 12, 14 hours a day. And I was like, why not just record them?
So good.
And then I've always...
Why?
Because I enjoy them. I enjoy these conversations. And as we've grown and gotten busier and life kind of moves faster, it's rare that I have pockets in time to really sit down and talk with somebody. If we check in, it's like, hey, like when we checked in on a pitcher, who we both know and work with. It's like, hey, what do we got to do? This, and that? Yeah, good. Okay, cool. And then it's
Garrison.
like,
Talk about Garrison.
or your cousin. It's like, you
Or
know,
your
it's
cousin.
like, yeah, or here's what we got to do. And then we check in and we move on. It's
Yeah.
like, we don't have the time to do this. And then it's fun as hell to do a project with Jordy because we would just like fuck around and do
Jordan
shit
knows
growing
what
up.
he's doing.
I mean,
You know what you're doing.
and for me, I remember I came back. So I tore my Achilles in October of 21.
Ooh, it's tough.
I came back, and one of the first days I came back, Michael was like, "Dude, I'm thinking about doing a podcast. You want to do it?" And immediately, I pretty much said yes because one of my best friends that I lived in the city with, we had talked about doing it, and then things just never worked out.
Where'd you live in the city?
I lived in Ridgewood, so like border of Brooklyn and Queens, and then I was in the Upper East Side for 2 years.
Yeah. Favorite part of the city? What do you got?
Whoa.
Let's go favorite city, and then New York favorite part of the city.
Like-
what do you got?
Like favorite city in New York, or
In the
or
United
just in
States.
the United States?
In
Oh,
general. Well, in
that's
general.
tough. That's
Doesn't have
tough.
to be. What do you got? What do you got?
I'm not going first.
Boston's my favorite city. I kind of
So
like
nice.
that was a big part of just me growing up. It was the first time I lived by myself. I had to pay all my bills. Sam and I just really solidified our relationship. I grew professionally. I fucking loved it.
That's awesome.
Boston, my favorite city by far. New York City, I like never went that much.
The north end of Boston is fucking absolutely gorgeous.
I love
I
it.
think
Great
I,
Italian
I think
food.
I would say New York because, again, living there and the experience of living there and all of the, like, literally having to just go through shit when you first move down there. Like,
It's infinite.
Yeah, the 3 guys that moved down there, we decided to move down there, and in 9 days, we found an apartment and left.
Wow.
Yeah.
New York City.
We just said, fuck it, let's do it.
Favorite part?
Of New York City?
Yeah.
I like Brooklyn a lot. I like Brooklyn
Why?
a lot. I feel like Brooklyn is just more, it's just more of like the neighborhood. You go in and you could talk to people and like you feel like you're from that area even if you're not. You know, that was why I loved Brooklyn so much. Like it
You
was
ever
just,
run into Spike Lee?
I never ran into Spike Lee, unfortunately.
I
Never ran
want to
into Spike
say
Lee.
the last time I was in New York was probably in like 2017,
What?
16 at a conference. I don't go
Ever?
much. Yeah, I don't go much. No, I've been multiple times, but that was like the
I was
last
literally
time
there
I
last
went.
week.
5 years ago?
Yeah, and I
Holy
went
shit,
to
You gotta go, man.
no because when I went last time, it was my favorite time ever. It was in Yonkers, so
Okay.
outside of the city.
Okay.
But we took a Uber to Sue's Rendezvous.
Yeah.
Google it, Paul. You ever go?
Is this something I'm allowed to Google on your computer?
Yeah, sure.
The guy with the computer. Bro, we already searched Mookie Betts fucking jerking off.
yeah, but I didn't search
It's
that. I
free
searched-
reign.
I
But-
searched Mookie Betts celebration.
We've
Paul,
hit the ceiling.
I had
All you
to-
can do is go down from there.
Sue's Rendezvous ends 45 years of erotic dancing.
I had to be there in the last couple months that it
First
ever
fucking
existed.
Wait, what year did you go?
2017, when it closed.
April 2017.
Yeah, I was there in like the last couple months it ever existed.
Wow. In its prime.
Hold
Legendary.
on. Can you see that?
No, what?
Permanently
Oh,
closed.
God.
It's
Yeah,
got a
big
big
permanent.
red thing on
You
Google.
know what? You know
Permanently
what?
closed.
You know
Well,
what?
they don't want
closed-
you to go there.
Paul, you
because
know
it's
what closed it
closed.
down permanently? Was
You?
Google this. I think not me. No,
I bet
I
we both said that at the same time.
The fucking what? Yeah, the $80 I spent there. No way.
$80
No,
bucks?
I
That's
don't-
cheap in
yeah,
the city.
Yeah. Was
Fucking these bills, man.
I think ASAP Yams got shot there, and that was like
Oh,
it. That like
that
closed,
would make sense.
That closed.
Oh,
that
yeah,
closed it
anytime
down.
someone gets shot somewhere,
Yeah.
something downhill from there.
Yeah, I
Name
think
me
that,
one time in history someone got shot and the place didn't fucking.
I think that closed it down. Paul, correct?
I'm gonna look it up right now.
Just Google ASAP Yams. Like that's
did.
where it was. I think it
Wow.
was like outside of there. And
Oh wait,
that
he died because of an overdose.
maybe not him, but
That's
somebody,
Somebody
some
did.
rapper did. But yeah, whatever. That's like my last New York City
All
memory.
right, so I gotta go. My favorite artist
Yeah.
currently.
Yeah, go your favorite.
My
artist.
favorite artist currently is Far Caspian. So it's a really obscure soft band that I think is really deep.
What's the name of it again?
Far Caspian. Let's see.
This is on you, Jay, to play. I just want to look it up.
Play Brother by Far Caspian.
This makes sense now.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
That makes a lot of sense.
Cuts to my core, man.
Yeah, music's
it's-
so dependent.
It's
on
good to have different outlets. Like when a kid in here says that they do art or they do music, I'm like, I
love
love it. Keep going because
love
it's
it.
nice to have an outlet other
they're
than sport.
creative. It shows they're creative.
I got to
You know?
show him the one girl in here that
Let's do it.
her art is
Yeah,
unreal.
it's great.
What do you got?
But yeah.
So this
I
one
love-
girl, she's gonna be a senior. She has Like, it's unfucking real, dude.
Hey, what do you got on Lagavulin, by the way, Mike?
This is good.
What do you got?
This guy? This
Yeah.
is tasty.
Yeah.
So this is her Wednesday Addams.
Oh shit!
Yeah, she's good.
Wow. How do people draw that shit?
Dude, I don't know.
It's amazing.
This one's the one.
It's goddamn amazing. Like it looks like real life.
This
you
is the one
drew
that
that with a
gets me.
pencil? Are
Yeah,
you
that.
kidding me?
That's unreal
That's
skill.
And
a
like you
drawing.
just lightened up a little bit on your wrist to
Right.
draw that?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, I mean, it's
It's
incredible.
fucking unbelievable. Oh, look at that. She's using her hand.
Yeah.
How is it even possible
She,
to
yeah.
think of?
I remember the first time she showed me that, I was like, follow. Immediately.
You know what it is? It's your guys' ability to see. So when you watch someone lift, right? They go into a deadlift, and you immediately go, "Oh no! I guess that's not. We can get this much better." That's your version of what she does,
Yeah.
right? I watched someone pitch earlier. I watched someone pitch. I haven't watched pitch in years, and I went, like, wow, like you're so much better than you used to be, like immediately. And I didn't need a video. I didn't need my phone. Like it was just like, wow.
But
this feels
okay,
different.
we'll tie this with this though. It's your
Bring it back.
It's your knowledge and the time you put in learning pitching mechanics and biomechanics
Yeah.
and technique, but it's also how you were brought up and your mindset and how you think about somebody and see them and talk to them, right? It's blending that with your knowledge. That's what gets to the person.
All right. So do we want to go in how we were brought up direction or pitching knowledge direction?
I want to go into just like
Can
how
you tie
you're
it together?
Yeah, well, I want to go into. I
can.
feel like we did pitch knowledge. I want to go into how you were brought up because
Okay, great.
I feel like a big influence on me and how I have empathy and kindness and see people is from my mom and my grandma being
1000%.
raised by them.
1000%.
That's what makes me and better than a lot of people in this field because I'm more than just like fucking science and cueing. It's how I was raised like that.
Yeah. So, me too, first of all. Second of all, I think you can split life into two stages. One being what you were taught to think. The second being when you realize you're your own man and you decide to start thinking about things on your own decision making, right? And how you think and how you act and how you behave and how you draw your life. And I think one probably influences the other to some degree. But I think simultaneously, the yin and the yang, you think for yourself for the first time ever. So my question to you guys is and I want to hear from all of you, when did you start thinking for yourself?
College.
Yeah.
Hands
Yeah.
down.
Yeah. What year of school?
Probably junior year when
Where'd you go?
when I switched my major.
Where'd you go?
Cortland.
Okay.
When I switched my major, that was
Phys ed?
that was probably what's your
Phys ed?
that was originally what I went for.
That's what I thought.
But more because I wanted to coach.
Yeah. Yeah.
More because I wanted to coach, and then I realized
There's
I
just a
didn't want to
stigma.
be a fucking phys ed teacher, and now I'm a fucking phys ed teacher in a different way. Literally, when I think about it, I'm literally a phys ed teacher in a different way. I'm a coach in a different way.
You are literally educating physicality.
Yeah, it's just it took a different route for me to get to that
So
point.
good. So
But
good.
in the grand scheme, like college was definitely when I started to be like, all right.
So
I'm
this
that
is
person.
the problem is like phys ed is really exercise science, but it's too specialized.
It's yeah.
Yeah.
And phys ed, exercise
You
science.
defied that.
I feel like exercise science is too specialized. Phys ed isn't specialized enough.
So good. So good.
Especially based off of my experience of going to school for phys ed and then switching to the exercise science field.
Yeah. So good. What do you got, Mike?
Probably wasn't until after college. It wasn't until my first real job. Like I interned at Cressy's, and then I went to massage therapy school, and I worked at this commercial gym. And I went to the commercial gym and kind of just like thought I knew everything.
What was it?
This place in Boston, it's like private gym.
Can't
But
say.
yeah, but
Okay.
yeah, I just didn't do great. Things weren't clicking, and then I still
Why?
kind of because I had an ego. And I just thought I knew hey, I just interned here, and what I know is like better than what you know.
You know better.
Right. So then I go to my next
Every
job,
strength coach.
and my next job was like a
That's
commission.
a coach. Everybody's a coach.
Yeah, was like a commissions only job, and then yeah, I was like, something's not clicking right.
Yeah.
And I guess I just flipped to this place where it's like, okay, getting to know people is more important. Relationships are more important, and like I just have to drop my ego of like.
How did you do that?
How did I do that?
How'd you drop your ego? You knew you had to. How'd you do it?
I think. Yeah, it's a good question. I say a specific point in time?
Yep.
I don't know. I did some therapy. I struggled at work. Sam and I probably struggled in our relationship a little bit. And I just probably over time worked through like, hey, if I want to have a successful career, be a good boyfriend, fiance, husband. Yeah, just like the ego can't really be a piece of it.
Yeah.
So I can't say it was one specific moment, but just probably
the struggles settled the ego, essentially.
Yeah. Jordan?
I'd say I felt fully or near fully autonomous at like 26. Took a while.
Mm-hmm.
So 4 years after you graduated, or 5?
I graduated college when I was 23, so
3 years after.
3 years after college.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the moment? Or in time, the phase, maybe.
No, it was independence for the first time.
Yeah.
I would say I had some codependent tendencies with family members, and that translated into one relationship and then another.
Yeah.
And then I was on my own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I think that's why college for me was I wasn't codependent anymore on my mom. When I was in college, I was like, oh, I have to do shit on my own. And it was like, all right. And then when I switched my major, it was like finally making a decision of like, not that anybody had an influence on me choosing phys ed, but it was just that decision of like, I'm making a very large decision for my life, for my future that could impact me, and I'm gonna fucking do it. And if I'm gonna fail, I'm gonna fail miserably.
Okay.
If I'm gonna succeed, I'm gonna succeed greatly.
I think we've said a lot. I think let's go here to kind of tie things together.
No, let Mike answer first.
Yes.
Let Mike answer first, Mike.
Wow.
Good call, Jordy.
Yes, thanks, Jay.
So I remember being so depressed that I hit a rock bottom. I say this a lot to people who feel just poorly.
Mm-hmm.
I think people mistake depression for something they're working through. Not to say that depression isn't real, because I think it is, because I've experienced it. But I think people feel bad for themselves and label that as depression when it's not necessarily. Like, they just kind of get stuck there, you know? And I was there. And my phrase that I say to everybody is rock bottom has a trampoline. And you hit rock bottom and you bounce the fuck back. Because for someone who's driven, so for someone who doesn't just give up on things, you hit rock bottom and you go, okay, it can't get worse than this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's see how high I can jump, you know? And it forces you, because you reach a dead end. You go, this is it. Like, this is as far low as I can get. The only way to go is up. And that's what happened in my life. That's where I started to transition.
You were where? In your 20s?
I was 23.
So just
I'm 30 now.
basically just
23.
after college, right around that time.
It was my first year. So similar to what you guys were saying, I was very close with my grandma. I lived with her. She passed away. I was by myself. I remember one New Year's Eve where I wasn't hanging out with my friends or my family, and I was completely by myself, and I was watching the fireworks go on off on TV, and I was like, what the fuck am I doing with my life? And I remember the day, people ask me this, I remember the day I turned things around, and I remember waking up one day, and I checked Facebook. The first thing I did was check Facebook, which I always did at that point. And then I made the decision after this to not do that anymore. But I checked Facebook. I literally picked up my phone and looked at Facebook. And I found a video that said, everything in your life is your fault. And I thought that was, like, my first reaction was, that's really harsh. That's really
fuck
harsh.
you, dude. Like,
it's like, what the fuck, man, right? I'm just waking up. You got to throw this at me? What the fuck, man? And then I started thinking about it. And I think it was poorly worded, but what that ad or that thing was really trying to tell me was everything in your life is your responsibility. That's a very different way of wording that.
You have control over things. In your life.
And I went, holy shit, I'm blaming things on myself and on my life outside of me. And that's not the way that you are only in control of your own life. And that's the day that everything turned around. I remember going to bed that night, like laying in the same exact situation. Nothing had changed other than my perspective. That's it. It's the only thing that changed.
I think, and it's like me simplifying things, and it's like you've been through a lot with that, Jordy, Paul, me, all different things. But it's palpable when somebody has been introspective, has done work on themselves, has struggled for a bit, and learned things. I think that is, and it's almost like you can't say, I'm going to go work on that. It's something that just happens in life, and you have to go through and recognize it. But in the realm of like our fields and working with people, I think it's an important thing. It gives you empathy and gives you understanding.
Man. So one of the questions you set up was why you need to understand yourself before you understand other people.
Dude, I feel like you just highlighted that.
Can you ask that? Ask that.
Yeah. I mean, this is like what we just talked about. Like why, before you can fully give yourself to somebody else, a client, a spouse, a family member. Why do you need to really understand yourself first before you can fully give to somebody?
Because you recognize something else in somebody else based on what you recognize in yourself. It's a mirror. You see what you saw in yourself in somebody else, and you helped yourself through that, and that enables you the ability to help whoever's going through the same exact thing. It's so powerful.
It's so powerful.
And it's so true.
It's a mirror.
True.
It's a mirror.
Yeah.
And the ego is completely uninvolved.
It needs to be uninvolved.
In that transaction. You know? It's like I work through this, so there's no point in me helping you other than I know how it feels. It's empathy, right? So I know how it feels, and it sucks, and I wish someone told me this, so I'm paying it forward to you because I went through it.
I mean, and
that's what it's about.
On a simpler terms, a lot of times I'll tell kids in here, I'm like, I'm trying to give you the shortcut to not make the same mistakes that we made. Whether it's me, Amen. Mike, Dan, because sometimes like a kid will get frustrated with something that I'm coaching them because like they're like, oh, I feel like I can do more or whatever, like da da da. I'm like, I understand where you're coming from, and I get that because I was there, but like I'm trying to help you cut out the bullshit that you don't need to do to get from point A to point B as efficiently as possible. I'll
tell you guys one thing that I think needs to happen in baseball in general, but in male sports more specifically, is we go male to male all the time in terms of energy, right? So you're dealing with something, you come to me and you go, hey man, like, you know, I'm dealing with this, I'm dealing with this, I'm dealing with this. Okay. Our response most of the time is just fucking figure it out. I A, don't want to hear it, and
F-I-F-O, figure it the fuck out.
You're being soft, and I'm not going to give you the sympathy of what you're feeling. And I think that's such a mistake. I think that the proper way to deal with that is to go, I've been through the same thing, bro. It's not fucking easy. I felt what you felt, and it's hard. And it's okay to feel that way. The motherly energy of like, this sucks. I've been there. I know how much this sucks. And to really like hold them in that moment. And when they feel understand and they feel heard, you know what happens is their ego is put aside and then they're open and available to hear whatever advice you're going to give them. It happens every time. Like I feel it every time with a pitcher or a player in general, where they just like, they say their piece and you're like, dude, I get you. I've been there many times.
The hard part with this, especially strength and conditioning, you get a bunch of meat sticks and guys with ego, right? You do.
You do. No doubt.
You do.
No doubt.
And it's like, okay, unless you were like me and Jordy, and like you spent a lot of time around your mom and your grandma and your aunt growing up. So like
Me too.
Right, like a big female presence in how you were raised.
My mom.
Or
Your mom.
like
Shout out Lisa and Donna.
No
yeah,
doubt.
or you went
Donna?
through some shit and you sought out
Pam?
therapy, or you just kind of got more introspective. Yeah, a lot of dudes struggle with that.
They don't. It's no fault to anybody.
No.
But it's the way that it's happening. And what happens is I think guys go, okay, so I just like became vulnerable to you and told you what I was feeling, and you said fuck off, basically. You know, and they stop. They stop coming to you. And to bring this back to pitching, like so much of it is just, can you get past what you're feeling and what you're going through to become present with your art of competing? And I hope for people, for coaches and for the sport specifically, but coaches just like, you know, across the board, can you just hear your players? Just give them a second to explain themselves, because they're not complaining, they're expressing. It's a very different thing, right? Expressing is, here's what I'm feeling. I don't know how to handle it. You're an adult. I feel comfortable with you enough to say, you know, I feel this way. Help me through this. And then most people just turn them away and just go like, no, you're wrong in feeling that way because you're soft. And that's just, man, it just fucking destroys people that way.
I can think of an example just today when you're talking about that. Like we have two brothers that come in here. The younger brother hasn't been in for a little bit, but he blew a championship game. He's in 6th fucking grade.
So he's 12?
Right. Which it's 1000% okay to feel like shit because of that. But it's also 1000% okay to bounce back from that and be like, all right, dude, I got fucking like a lot of time to play. He's going to blow another game. It's going to happen.
It's baseball.
It's going to fucking happen.
Yeah,
it's
it's
baseball.
sports.
My buddy says all the time, it's baseball, Susan.
Like you were saying, it's okay to feel like
Yeah.
you let somebody down.
Yeah.
But it's how do you bounce back from that and who do you go to after that?
I think that's the key, is you're not wrong in how you feel. That's the key part. You're not wrong in it.
No.
It might
I'd
not
feel like
be-
shit if I was a 6th grader and I let my team down.
It might not be beneficial to you. Like, you could think about, there's a better way to think about this.
Yeah.
But you're not wrong.
Right.
Those are two different things. It's so powerful.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to you're teaching kids to self-judge themselves on how they're just naturally feeling, when it's just like, just allow yourself to feel whatever the fuck you're feeling.
Yep.
All the time.
Feel with it, deal with it,
And then
and
learn
then,
from
and
it.
then learn from it.
Yes. And then move on. And learn from it, master your craft, and move on. You asked before, like, how in your 20s do you manage that shit? And I honestly, here's my advice to anybody who feels less than adequate. Meditate. Meditate, man. I think we are wired to introspectively look at ourselves and understand ourselves, and then to your whole point is, when you understand yourself, you can understand other people so easily. We are wired to meditate. It's the most powerful thing I ever decided to do.
Yeah, society makes it hard to put yourself there.
Yep, but it's
Spend time with yourself.
so worth it. It's so worth it.
Yeah. Spending time with yourself
Every morning.
is important.
When I wake up, first thing is what I do is, it takes between 45 and an hour and 15. I meditate for that amount of time before I do anything. It's clarity. It's understanding of self. It's the secret to success.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think we wrap it like, if you're in the baseball field, you're a coach, a pitching coach, you're a strength coach. It's like all of these technical things matter, but what we just talked about, like if you make that your foundation and spend time there, you'll be happier, you'll make more money, you're gonna probably be more successful, you're gonna have better relationships, you're gonna
People
feel
you
less
work with will be
frustrated.
happier.
Yeah.
You know what the key is? You don't need anything. All of what you just said is great, but you don't need any of it.
No.
And people think they need it. I need money. I need the girl. I need. You don't need jack fucking shit. You don't need shit. You need yourself. You are fully equipped with everything that you need, as you are. That would be my billboard to people. It's like, you are enough as exactly as you are. You are equipped with everything you need.
Yeah, man.
Be successful.
I agree.
It's true.
How long is our longest one?
Definitely our longest one.
Wow.
Oh,
nice,
yeah. Shout out,
nice.
Mike. Let's go.
Shout out, Mike.
He's got so many highlighted questions. Let's hit him.
Well, those are the highlighted ones that we've done. The ones that aren't highlighted are
Really?
what I'm trying to go through and be like, okay, what happened?
Let's hit her.
Here, Paul,
Hit your
choose
finalists.
one
Oh,
to
God,
finish
dude,
with.
now
Here,
you're asking
Paul.
me a
Yep.
fucking lot here.
You're choosing one to finish with. Whatever you
We're
want to
making
ask.
it. We've hit life. Let's go pitching.
Yeah, go one pitching one.
One pitching.
First
one
or
pitching.
second column, Paul. Second bullet point section.
All right.
I have one. I know
You
what
go
one.
for it, Mike.
Go for a couple.
Mike, you go for it because you know what's
I
on
want
here.
this. Okay. What's been like the biggest technological advancements in the last
That was
handful
the
of
first one I was
years?
looking to look at.
Such a good question. You're not gonna like the answer.
Go.
Everything.
Cameras.
10 years ago, it was radar guns and eyes. And since then, it's been, we have the ability to measure literally everything that
So,
happens.
in a simple term, computers.
Yeah,
Like if
Yeah.
you really want to simplify it down,
Yeah.
computers and cameras.
I don't disagree. It's cameras that talk to computers and transfer the information. Yes.
Like that would be the simplest way to put it.
I think it's the simplest way to put it. It was radar guns and how hard are you throwing and what is my experience to understand what you're doing as a pitcher.
I just highlighted that question.
Yeah,
Just
really
so you
good.
know. Just so you know.
Really good.
Just to make sure.
Yeah, we've hit a lot.
Yeah.
Life. pitching.
You can measure literally everything right now. I can measure the exact millisecond of how they're moving. So if we work again in pitching, if we work from ball flight, but you ever seen a TrackMan CSV? Have you guys ever seen one?
Not in person. I know what a TrackMan is.
I know what a TrackMan is,
I'm
but
gonna
I've never
pull
seen
one
one in
up
person.
so you guys can understand.
I can tell you right now, if I had all this information as a kid, I would have been fucked because I'm such a numbers person.
Yeah.
No, you wouldn't have because you would grow to understand it.
I think
That's my problem with baseball.
I think at first I would have overthought it, and then you're probably right. I would have just understood it.
You would have gotten it. You need the education.
Because I love
you
numbers.
would go, okay, what's my VAA? Okay, on this pitch it was 4.2, and on this pitch it was 3.9. But I threw this pitch with higher quality vertical break, and I threw this pitch this much higher in the zone with quality vertical break. And you go, oh shit, like guys can't match their swing planes to this pitch that I threw. And you would ignore all the shit that doesn't affect you and doesn't benefit you, and you would just go, oh, this is what makes me good. And you would focus on what makes you good.
You're right.
That's how that goes.
Yeah, yeah.
That's how it goes.
Yeah.
Look at this. This is one game.
Dude, look at all those numbers.
eyes
Scroll
hurt.
to the right.
Look at all the
it's
numbers.
It's unbelievable, right? So
That's every pitch in
Each
one game.
row is one pitch of information. It's fucking enormous.
Finally got to the end.
That's wild.
It's enormous. That's one game of TrackMan CSV. The information is, I told you earlier, in an ocean of information. It's so true.
Dude,
It's
that's
so
nuts.
abundant. It's crazy.
I don't even have to scroll like
No.
or zoom in. Like,
Yeah.
It's just
So all I go is, hey, like, ignore this shit. This is what you need to know.
Right.
This is what makes you good. Double down on this shit. This is what we're gonna do to make you better. Let's go do it.
Yeah,
And the buy-in comes from, oh shit, this guy knows what he's talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go do it.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, it's a different game than we grew up. But yeah, more people like you who care about relationships and know how to take the data and make changes to it. It's where it's at. You have
Mike,
one more question, Paul?
no.
One more.
I just saw your text message that came up on the computer.
From me? Oh, is it bedtime?
It might be bedtime.
It might be bedtime.
One more? Give me one more. What do you got?
One
more.
more.
Last one.
Sorry, I just
So
read the
good.
next text. And I laughed
It's
out
a
loud.
dad. It's a dad text.
It's also
I got
that
that-
I've known Sam and Mike my entire
Me
life.
and Paul are gonna stay here for fucking.
I've known Sam and Mike my entire life, so the dynamic. I know their entire dynamic,
I love it.
and it's great. I'm like,
You could read that off him.
I can literally read it and know her emotion behind it.
Listen, let's do this. Plug your shit, Mike. Where can people find you? I know you do the Bridge Seminar. Just let the people know.
I love it, the Bridge Seminar. So the Bridge Seminar is how can one event literally bridge biomechanics to pitching to PT to strength training to data analytics. How can we combine all of these things that we feel are separate, which are really truly one, into one event where everyone can learn from the best in the business from one location? That's the Bridge event. So we don't have a date for 2023 yet. I'm working on that right now, but that'll be out soon. And we also do pitching evaluations for WakeForestPitchingLab.com. You can visit there and click on the evaluations part of the site and see where we can help you as an individual.
Awesome, man. Hey, I appreciate you coming on. This is a
It's been
blast.
an awesome time, man.
We'll do
a part two.
So
We'll do a part two for sure.
Part two, 100%.
Yeah, we will 100%. So, Mike, appreciate you, and we'll catch everybody next time.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.